Reveille.
Look at us now, tip to
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
to us, doing what we love. It's time to bang.
Hey, welcome to Morning Kombat, where the question of the day is, which fighter is going to be the first to be the Chris Benoit of MMA? And by that, I mean murder, suicide, their entire family.
Wow, I did not sign off on that joke. Wow.
Hey, a joke?
Oh, boy.
It's Morning Kombat. It's the 14th of October, 2024, and we're going to talk about Beterbiev versus Bivol and the results therein. We're going to talk about Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Royval and the results therein. We have UFC 310 announcements, as well as, for the first time in nearly 3 years, in MMA anyway, it's the Francis Ngannou Fight Week.
Never heard of it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm Luke Thomas. That's Brian Campbell. We're Morning Kombat. We appreciate you guys joining us here. BC?
Yes. Sorry,
the King of Connecticut. How are you, good sir?
Not well, because I made the very spontaneous motion of shaving my facial hair, which was instantly regrettable.
You look like the kind of guy at the office that gets relieved when the minorities get fired.
Okay, that's unacceptable. But it's just about the second worst joke you've had since we've started. So yeah, I regret it, but the good thing is it'll grow back. But you would have to say between that and the dye job, I do look like about 12 years younger, except for this luggage under my eyes that I'm carrying around. Yeah.
Hey, name this tune, Brian Campbell.
Yeah, what do you got?
Brian Campbell's in the lot again.
See, this isn't fun.
Outside the Arby's store, sucking on whippets, feeling numb. He's chasing thrills galore. I'm almost done. He's smelling like regret and fries. Oh man, it's getting rough. A virgin by design or chance? Well, no one calls his bluff. I got to tell you, 10 out of 10 on the lyrics. Hit that hip hop horn for me
no,
if you can.
Please don't. That doesn't justify it. You know what it's like to be friends with Luke Thomas? Okay. You wake up Sunday morning to, hey, I just asked Chat GPT to write a funny song about me masturbating. It's like, yeah, it's please lose my number, okay? Please, okay? I've become uncrowned. Thank you. All right, thank you. Here it is.
Did you have a good weekend otherwise?
Yeah, I did. I thank you. I did.
I saw The Good Robot. I took Tukey to see The Good Robot.
I don't even know what that is.
It's the new kid movie that's out. Okay. It's beautifully animated, and it's a very nice story. It is very overrated and not that good, and I was very disappointed in it.
All right, I'm trying to hear myself in my ear.
How do you sound now? Check, 1, 2.
Check, 1, 2, 3.
Glad we're doing this on the air and not beforehand.
Check, 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right.
Better now?
I got what I'm looking for.
Yeah?
Now.
You sound better?
Yeah. So yeah, outside of me looking, apparently, like my loved ones have told me, like a serial killer with this look, I will go on, and I'm excited for today's show. And we have to get into this scoring debate going on with this Beterbiev-Bivol mess.
We do.
Not mess, a fantastic fight. So I'm excited about that. But no, I didn't go to the splash pad or anything, if that's what you're talking about. But I did mow the leaves again. I'm winning the battle this year. Normally I'm like desperately.
So a lawn expert
to
told me it's actually better to leave, no pun intended, to leave the leaves there. It's actually better for the if you have. So what they explained to me was it's actually better for the life cycle of the grass to actually leave it there. However, if you have certain allergies and it rains on top of the leaves, you can get mold spores.
For sure.
And so that could be worse. So in that case, you should rake it. But if you don't, you're not supposed to rake it.
Well, I mow it and it makes it to a fine powder and it sprinkles.
Well, that's all right then. Yeah. So you don't bag it up.
No.
That's just only when the hooker's behind 14th Street.
I don't blow it either. Well, speaking of hookers, I don't blow it either, but I mow it, and I'm winning the battle this year. So that's great because I fall behind at home a lot because I care about the fight game so much. You know what I mean? You can't pick what you love in this life.
Why did you shave?
I thought I was onto something on the design in my head, I almost wanted like a connecting Gervonta beard, which really is just a flawed thought really to be in there.
Yeah.
But, I'm not afraid to take spontaneous chances like that. but I'm also got to take the L. You know what I mean? So then I went and I had the handlebar mustache going. I'm like,
That's okay. That's all right.
I'm going to be totally 80s, but it didn't look sincere or authentic. So suddenly I'm down to a mustache, and then I was getting like Hitler vibes, and then I'm clean shaven. You know?
In the Marine Corps, when you have, I don't know what the current regulations are, but I doubt it's changed. But when I was in, you were allowed to have a mustache under certain kinds of regulations.
Yeah.
But the big one was it could not extend past the lip line.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, in order to not be someone who looks like they're just automatically anti-Semitic, you actually have to grow it past the lip line. Like, that's a terrible way to manage mustaches. Long Island Luke, how was the main card minute over the weekend?
Oh, wow.
Main card minute was fantastic. We only got one bet wrong, and that was unfortunately Alex Morono. He did win the first round, though, clearly.
He did lose. However, Gaff made, get ready for this. Gaff made $1,000 off the most improbable bet. What was it?
Grant Dawson by KO. He made 1,000, and he made 700 on Royval. Shout out, Gaff.
Wow.
I would love to have that Royval post-fight comment and have you seen this shit today, but the UFC would shut us down again. So I just said,
dude, what is up with them? Like, you can't even show anything even related to something that aired on their broadcast, much less the fights. It used to be you can't show the finish. Then it was like no footage of the fights.
And
really,
like, you can't show hog, and we're like, I get it.
And then it's
but,
like, don't even reference us verbally on air.
Yeah.
Like, it has gotten to that point. Every time the video gets taken down, my Twitter mentions your video got taken down. And I'm like, first of all, we're on it. Second of all, they're hard asses about it.
Luke,
so.
sometimes those Twitter people, they get inside of you. They get in your head.
No, they're telling me that the video got taken down. It was just there'd be just like 50 of them.
I hope that you don't care whether they live or die, because that's when I think you're in your you do your best work when you're in that
most
mode.
people I feel that way.
I'm a little disappointed that you bring in the pink monster today. Not
Why?
like
What's
I
wrong with the
wasn't
pink
equally
monster?
disappointed in your bang energy last week, but I mean, turn the corner, turn the page.
Ultra Fantasy Ruby Red.
Get rid of that bullshit in your body, all right?
Hey, why don't you stop looking like a child molester? We'll work on that first. How about that? All right. With that in mind, reminder, of course, like and subscribe if you haven't. We appreciate everybody here. You can see our socials as well. Plus, you can follow BC on his personal channel, The Brian Campbell Experience.
Oh, yeah. Wow. How about that?
Then you can follow me as well, youtube.com/Luke Thomas. However, we also have merch for sale where you can get nice stuff like this. We don't have the Clubber Lang shirt, which, by the way, is sick.
Thank you. Shout out to the contenders. They have fantastic.
But you can get some of ours, and you can use the promo code LIVE10 therein. I'm told that we got the Friday audio up a little bit late, but it did go up. Right? Isn't that right, Matt Snyder back there? Yes? Okay. So we'll make sure from going forward that the Friday audio.
Yeah, but Friday was great to be back.
It was great. But we'll have another
right?
great one this Friday because, of course, we're going to have a great preview for Francis Ngannou's return against Henry Fair. By the way, I will say this. We're going to talk about the card a little bit later. Just as a general observation for that card, it's good.
It's a good card.
It's a good card. Now, there's a lot of problems around it.
Yes.
But just the card itself, quality. Very quality MMA. All right. With that in mind, BC, we have got to talk about, well, you know the drill. We got to talk about Beterbiev versus Bivol. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to bang.
All right, BC, let's get right into it. Topic number one, biggest fight of the weekend by far. I would call it a competitive, good fight. Not a thriller, but definitely a competitive and good fight.
Can you get past good, though? Can you get beyond good, above that? You got to raise your rating.
Highly technical.
Because I want to say this before we even get into it.
Okay.
I was a little too emotional coming off of it, entering a post-fight show, because I felt, and we'll get into it about the scoring.
That's why they call it the instant reaction.
I felt Bivol got a raw deal in there, and I certainly rewatched it multiple times, 3 additional times in various ways, and I came away, first and foremost, that this was a way more entertaining fight, because it was so tense in the moment, and I was so tied up into the scoring and all of that, that I think I didn't fully realize until I rewatched it how freaking tense, high-paced, and skillful this fight was.
Two problems, though.
Not all action, but they sold out to perform like that. Dude, the defensive skill being shown and the IQ being shown.
Next level.
Next
level. Highly technical. Let me just make 2 points very quickly. One, I would say that the scoring, or at least the impression of the scoring, I think marred how we remember the fight a little bit.
Yes.
Also, listen, I understand that but for Saudi Arabia, this fight probably would not have happened. So I recognize you got to take the good with the bad. But the bad is they're putting it in arenas that are half full with people that don't really care about these fights.
Well, one man cared a lot about those fights, and his name is Ramzan Kadyrov.
Ramzan Kadyrov, too.
Front row seat,
okay, but I'm
right?
just pointing out, like, it's a dead atmosphere, and that didn't help necessarily either. All right, let's put that to the side for just a moment. BC, the question for you is as follows. Obviously, Artur Beterbiev scoring a majority decision win over Dmitry Bivol, a score of 114-114, a draw, 115-113, 7 rounds to 5. And then 116, 112, 8 rounds to 4. Both of the latter two in favor of Artur Beterbiev. BC, he is now the undisputed, completely, that's the guy at light heavyweight.
Yeah. He told me, Luke. He told me that's the way to say it.
Did the judges get the scoring right? And more importantly, what would be the biggest takeaway from this fight for you?
All right, I don't think the judges got the scoring right, but I'm not as much in my feelings and upset. Who do I think won the fight? Dmitry Bivol, 7 rounds to 5. Upon multiple rewatches, while I changed some of the rounds in terms of who I scored that, I come away 7-5 Bivol every time. Am I completely fine if it's a draw? Yes. Even 7-5 Beterbiev? Yes. There is an outrage that's gone too far with, I can understand 7-5, but I'm not going to accept 8-4. So 116, 112 is horrible. Look, I don't think that score represents what we saw, but it is only one round in the other direction. Ultimately, was this a stupid close fight? Yes. I wrote close after, I think it was 7 or 8 of the 12 rounds, meaning like could have gone either way when I scored it live. I think ultimately that the judges over-rewarded Beterbiev's pressure when I think for the most part, outside of the championship rounds where I really thought he was able to overcome Bivol in key moments there, I think it was ineffective pressure. My biggest takeaway, Luke, tell me if I missed this or whatever, Dmitry Bivol is even better than I thought he was. He's fucking great. He is potentially all-time great. He's so great. I wanted to talk about, could he even go up to heavyweight one day because he's such a firm, strong boxer? He looked like the bigger man in there against Beterbiev. And I don't want to hear people's takes that, oh, he was running or whatever. No, he was bringing in movement to do what? What no one else has been able to do, go the distance against Beterbiev. He brought in key movement that was making Beterbiev chase, and then he would alter that movement with big stretches of big punches. And what he told Marcus Viegas, the journalist afterwards.
From Fight Hub TV. Yep.
From Fight Hub TV in the interview that they did Sunday was he kind of modeled this performance after Sugar Ray Leonard against Marvin Hagler. So you can kind of understand it from that standpoint where Leonard used a lot of motion and movement, but would purposely sit down on his shots and bring offense, particularly late in the rounds, to try to win that over. Look, this was a brilliant performance in which I think Bivol raised his level of everything from stamina to IQ to toughness. I mean, I thought the biggest decider of this fight would come down to him taking Beterbiev's power. And not only did he prove that his chin is rock solid, I don't think he ultimately, Luke, I want to ask you this. I don't think he ultimately took Beterbiev's best punches because I think his defense was so sound that Beterbiev had to kind of basically go, I got to spam him in the final rounds to stay in the fight. Don't forget, Beterbiev's team telling him after round 10, you need a knockout. So it's showing you, I felt like his spamming was fantastic, and he was, especially in rounds 10 and 11, slipping through the guard of Bivol and landing big shots. But for the majority of this fight, I felt like he was chasing, and Bivol's defense was out of this world, where I don't even think Beterbiev hit him with his best shots.
So there's a lot I disagree with what you said.
Please, let's go.
I think when you say something like Bivol wasn't running, I want to be clear. There were long stretches where what you're describing, what he did, is true, where he was going side to side. There were times, by the way, where he was just standing purposely right in front of Beterbiev, which I thought was dangerous. And for the most part, he got out of those okay.
He spent most of the fight in punching range.
In punching range, no doubt about it. But there were times certainly where as he got closer to the ropes, obviously, he's using a lot of lateral movement, but he weaponized it very often. He made himself a very hard target, changing rhythm, changing angles, changing sides. It was fantastic. However, part of what cost him this fight, and you know it's true, and I scored the fight for Bivol. 7-5 to Bivol upon rewatch is how I have it still. But I recognize Beterbiev winning, not a robbery. Certainly a draw I would have been more than okay with.
Bad luck. It's bad luck, really.
But the thing I want to point out is if you're trying to okay, what could we identify as some of the shortcomings of what Bivol did? There were long stretches of certain key rounds where he would do well early, then cover, round 7 in particular, round 7 kind of cover, and then not ever throw back very much.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that those rounds mean you can't score it for Bivol, but if you come up on the losing end of that, you have to reflect on how badly that looked to the judges. It was too much time spent in defensive, crouching positions where you're not running, but you're definitely not throwing any offense out, and that hurt him.
I mean, particularly 10 and 11, I thought he was trying to survive more than he was using it to strategic points, so I think that does play into your part. When what you're saying there, I just don't think that was the case for the majority of the fight. And even when people are trying to say, I scored the 12th round for Bivol, and I know all 3 judges gave the 12th round for Beterbiev, and I think the online response I saw is people were split. I mean, rewatch that round. Bivol has success early, Beterbiev late. But a lot of the times you have to ask yourself, I think, did Bivol's success in the early round, which was always typically clean shots, clean. That's what I'm trying to say about the argument that I don't think Bivol showed a great chin, but I don't even think he took the best punches of Beterbiev because I think his defense was so strong that basically he took away key part. He took away Beterbiev being a body puncher in that one because his counters were so fast and so sharp. Dude, his punches were so on point that from a judging standpoint, you do have to juggle at times. Like the 12th round's a good example. But what about the success of Bivol early compared with when Beterbiev is going downhill in the second half of the round? Yes, there were Bivol at times being too much hit behind the guard, whether that was a stamina issue or whether he was just caught in tough spots, and that's the only way to not get hit. But he's really not getting hit cleanly a lot in those.
I agree.
So I've lost the whole idea that this is any level. First of all, it wasn't a robbery to begin with because it was a close fight. But even that the judges may have gotten it wrong, no. When I rewatch some of these key rounds, by the time I'm watching for the third or fourth time, I'm purposely watching the guy I scored against to see if I can make an argument for them. These are incredibly close rounds. So many of them where you can make an argument for either way. And Bivol, too, in that interview with Vegas, was very honest about the things he thinks he can improve on, being more offensive in some of those sequences.
He's right.
Where, look, he rocked Beterbiev in round 7. I mean,
Round
he showed
7,
that
he-
his
yep,
power.
mhm.
He physically looked like the bigger man in there. Did you notice that?
I didn't feel that way.
I thought he looked like the bigger man, and I thought he purposely, when there were physical moments, when Beterbiev in the clinch would try to move him around a little bit, he would push back instantly to show that
There were times, of course,
this
but
will
he
not
got
happen in
underhooked
here.
and thrown around a little bit too.
When he was a little bit tired late. I'm not
Yes.
going to, I mean, he faded a bit late. There's no question about that. So I'm not, again, away from the scoring debacle and debate on there. Would you agree with me that Bivol took his stock, which was already, I had him number 5 pound for pound, and just took it to another level with this performance?
Yes. Okay, remember, you had picked Beterbiev to win. I wanted Beterbiev to
Yes.
win. And I thought, gun to my head, Bivol would edge it. I felt like that's what played out in real terms. Obviously, the judges had a different perspective. But he did kind of what I thought he was probably going to be able to do. Again, the second half of the fight, I think at times got away from him a little bit. And we all knew the second half was going to be the big mystery. How was Beterbiev going to perform? So
He said he's going to move more in the second fight. by
yeah,
the way.
I mean, to me, it's like, did he proved something very special, but he did prove kind of what I thought he could do. And also, even if he had won with that performance, I still can't put it ahead of the top 3 guys at pound for pound,
I'm with you on
Inoue
that.
and Usyk and Crawford.
I don't think it jumps them, but I think it
puts
showed
them
me
firmly just behind.
I thought he would have needed a perfect fight to win this, and even he said that about himself, so he was actually aiming for that. You know what I mean? It was interesting to hear him in that long of an interview with Marcus really talk about how he addresses things mentally and how he looks at it. He said he treats every single fight in training camp like it's his final fight, but literally like brainwashes himself to believe that, so there's never any stone left unturned, and he gives all. I mean, he needed to give all in that training camp because they both, I think, stamina-wise, gave everything they had. But his variety on offense, if the Canelo fight was the eye-opener to everybody else, that before that some of his title defenses had been, I don't want to say boring, but like he didn't have the personality where once he had you figured out and controlled, if you weren't going to get out of there early, you're going to go to the decision against Bivol, right? I thought the Canelo fight was him taking the very best of his skills and showing you, what if I'm like this all the time? Because he was going to have to be against Canelo. He's going to have to back Canelo up. He's going to have to spam him with combinations. But the offense he was able to constantly give Beterbiev in close range with the danger of those punches coming back and the multi-combinations, the artistry of it. Look, he was at times leading with a lead right and then coming back with a left hook. I mean, there was so much offensive variety to his game that he proved he's not just a better boxer than Beterbiev. I think he's a better fighter overall. And I never thought I would say that coming out of that fight.
I'm not sure I can draw that conclusion, but I do want to try make 2 points, if I may, that I take away from this. One is something I've said in MMA, and I'm going to say it here again. We're trying to figure out, okay, if you're like me and you watch that, is a draw acceptable? Yes. Is 7-5 acceptable for Beterbiev? Yes. And then, by the way, I know you mentioned, like, well, 8-4 is one more round. 2 things I would say to that. Yeah, but which other round
I'm
would
with
it
ya.
be? And also, the notion that you can watch that fight and find only 4 rounds for Bivol seems insulting. And to that point, if I may, let's get, if we can, Long Island Luke, Eddie Hearn spoke to this. And I got to tell you, I know that Eddie Hearn is backing his guy, essentially. This made a lot of sense to me. Here's what he said after the fight. Can't hear it. Can't hear it. Well, let's take it off the screen if we can't hear. We're going to have to start over. We'll go back to that when they're ready. Let me know when you guys are ready with that. Oh, for fuck's sake. The clip I sent had audio. I just want to be clear about that. All right, well, whatever. He was dumbfounded that someone could only find 4 rounds for Bivol.
He said this guy worked his whole life to become undisputed champion. You took it from him. Yeah.
So I want to be clear. Like I don't have any issue with Beterbiev winning, but 2 things I want to say in response to all of this. First thing I'm going to say is commissions never give us a sense of why people scored fights the way that they did, and it's very difficult to know. Remember, you made this point in the Tyson Fury and Ngannou fight. In MMA, we don't score ring generalship until other factors are all equal.
Yeah.
That is not how it works in boxing.
Defense, too.
And defense as well. Defense is positively scored in boxing. It is not positively scored in MMA. So for that reason, it is very hard to know round to round how the judges interpreted the fact that Beterbiev was the guy at all times basically in center and stalking.
Sure.
But of course, at times, he was going downhill on Bivol. And at other times, he was getting chewed up by Bivol, even though Bivol was on the outside. What I'm trying to point out to you is it's very hard to know how much that mattered because they won't speak to us. This is the point I want to make. The commissions have to realize that they need somebody, one representative, to start explaining scorecards. And what they think is going to happen is that there's going to be backlash, which there will be, of course. And they think, oh, this won't be convincing. It will be convincing over time. Over time, people will begin to understand how judges really look at things, which judges value X or Y. They desperately need to do this to help us understand things. That's the first one I want to make. The second point I want to make is this one, which to me is a little bit more interesting. Throw up the scorecard if you can, Long Island Luke. There's no audio on this one. Just the judges' scorecard from the main event. Now
that was a dig. You just took a little gut.
I
shot.
definitely sent them a clip with audio, but okay, doesn't matter. I want you to pay attention to something. If you look at rounds 1, 2, and 3, they're all scored the same. If you look at rounds 10, 11, and 12, they are all scored the same. Such that there is any difference, they exist between, I think even round 10 was scored, round 8 was scored the same. So, not even that. 4 to 7 is where there is any differentiation. That's the only place where you really get any differences, and even some of those are unanimous. So, BC, I went back and I looked. Thank you. I appreciate it for putting that up. I went back and I looked at rounds 4 through 7 again. Holy shit, these rounds are hard to score.
Dude,
so one thing that happens
when you're watching and you're trying to make an argument for the guy you didn't score against and you're now convincing yourself that you don't know what you're talking about, shows you how freaking close this fight is.
Round 7 is a perfect example. Round 7, and this happened a lot, where you'd get Bivol sticking and moving early, sometimes in combination, but definitely having the more noticeable effect. And then maybe in the last minute, 45 seconds, here comes Beterbiev downhill. This is one such round where Beterbiev got knocked off of his own balance. I think, like, legitimately rocked.
He got rocked.
He got stunned, at least for a second. But there was more than just that from...
And then Bivol jumped on him with 2 massive long flurries where it looked like Beterbiev was more hurt than he was, but the judges have to take that into account. You know what I mean?
However, he kind of Oscar De La Hoya against Trinidad himself, which, if you've never seen that fight, basically De La Hoya was winning that fight and then kind of took off late, and then ultimately lost on the judges' scorecards.
Got robbed, but yes.
Okay, but he definitely didn't do himself a lot of favors fucking off late in that fight. The point I'm trying to make here is I don't think Bivol was necessarily doing that, but what you see is in the last 45 seconds or so, I think 50 seconds of that fight, 5-0, Beterbiev hurts him and then starts just touching him constantly. And it's like, without a judge explaining how much ring generalship mattered in that one or defense mattered in that one, if you're just left to score the offense, it is virtually impossible to score that round in any kind of unanimous way. True or false?
True. I mean, I was telling you that this was a specific fight where upon multiple rewatches, I now say, I don't think you can, like, we can all score it and we could all, if we wanted to, try to count the punch numbers, which CompuBox has built a reputation and a great business on. I don't even know how they would do it because there are sequences in this fight where you think you know what happened, but then you watch the ESPN zoomed in slow motion replays, and you're like, oh, that punch did get in, or oh, they just barely got out of the way of that one. I don't remember a fight with this level of craftsmanship on both sides where it was this much of a high-speed chess where you actually need the slow motion replays to begin to differentiate. So again, it takes me away from the idea that I don't think there was controversy. I don't think anyone was paid off or anything like that. I just thought maybe they got it wrong. I still think in theory they got it wrong. Meaning, I think in theory, Luke, they didn't grade the defense enough of Bivol. Or even if in the final minute, Beterbiev is coming downhill, dude, he swallowed up so many of those shots. 4 and 5 punch combos, only one is getting through. I get that that's an argument to keep him in the round, but Bivol's offense was so much cleaner, was it not?
It was cleaner. He was the better pure boxer, which we knew, but then to see how much better.
Puncher, and it seemed. Now, I'm not going to play into what he told Marcus about, like, he was trying to say that Canelo might have more one-punch power than Beterbiev. I think my argument to that, and Bivol kind of explained it himself too, is that in this specific fight, Beterbiev wasn't loading up with one shot. He was spamming you, but throwing maybe sometimes 75%, but he said it's all heavy. He said Canelo was throwing literally everything he had to some of these shots. But I thought when you had the first item when you're judging boxing is clean and effective punching, not damage. Clean and effective punching.
Yes. Yeah, what does effective mean? Effective punching.
Look.
So that was
where it's moving people.
So that's another problem that Bivol had. Not all the time. For example, in round 7, when he knocks him off of his balance, that was a huge shot that he landed. There's a couple times where you could see him land cleanly, but the problem is, like, over time, it barely ever deterred Beterbiev. And I wonder, again, without them giving us more information, it is very difficult for us to know. However, one could surmise, if they wanted to, that because Bivol was landing cleaner and then more continuously, at least in the early parts of some of those middle to later rounds, but it didn't really slow Beterbiev down.
Right.
They may have been like, well, and also, here's another thing I'm going to point out. I know Tim Bradley was getting killed for the commentary.
He was pro Beterbiev.
Super pro Beterbiev.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm not good at calling boxing, and I know that, but like we've done it before, and if it's way easier to do it when it's right in front of you. It's actually much harder than it looks when you're doing it in a studio. You have no idea how much you miss. Another thing that we just don't really know, BC, is those judges were right there, and they probably heard the impact of some of that stuff. And I wonder if just the crack of Beterbiev's shot may have played another role. Again, we don't know.
And I wonder if they're judged, because even Bivol said it afterwards when people were trying to say, well, look, your face was more beat up than his, which is, you can't score a fight on face. But I know people try to throw that in the argument. And he was saying that he only had that swelling because he felt like Beterbiev was hitting him so hard to the hand that he hurt his left hand and he was
getting
punching
hit
himself.
Like this, and the inside was like.
And I don't discount that there's not offensive effects in there when Beterbiev does that. It's not just that he's spamming you with pressure. He's just constantly hitting you hard. And Bivol said that. But do you think the judges are scoring that or maybe overly scoring that? Where it's like that's that gray area where it's hard to know.
I've talked about this before. It's the Diego Sanchez versus Martin Kampmann effect. It's an MMA reference. I know I usually try to keep my boxing references for boxing fights. But we made this point before.
We have a bi crowd. They go both ways.
They do go both. Both places they'll go. You know what I'm saying? Top or bottom. Okay. But the point I want to make is serious, namely that I remember in that fight, if you've never seen it, Diego Sanchez throws a ton at Martin Kampmann, and a lot of it gets close but never hits or bounces off the gloves or the arms, and yet he still won that fight. And you're like, well, that's just bad judging, right? But it's a confusing element that people have to interpret in real time. If you're just busier than the other guy, or at least busier in spurts, which is what Beterbiev was, I would say that there was like a steady drip from Bivol, but then there was like, I'm not going to call it avalanches, but like the faucet turned on for Beterbiev. And I wonder if that is simply more memorable or just stands out in the minds of judges. Again, people want to be like, this was a terrible decision. I think it is very difficult to find 8 rounds for Beterbiev. I really do believe that. On the other hand, it is not difficult necessarily to find a winning or certainly a drawing scenario. And so for that reason, by the way, there's a couple of rounds that could have been 10-10 too. Like we don't talk about that they probably should have been.
And I don't think 10-10 should be a thing. And they don't teach that you should do 10-10.
I understand they don't like it, but like here's one of those fights where it seems kind of appropriate.
I hear what you're saying. There are rounds that are just like, who won
who
that?
the fuck could you possibly
But I want to ask
hold on, no. I got one more. It's a test I wanted to give you.
Okay.
No one does it this way, and it's not a way that I'm asking it to be done. But I wonder what answer you might give. Imagine you had to judge that Pride Fighting Championships. So you have to judge it as a whole. If you're judging the bout as a whole, who's the winner?
I think Bivol.
I think it's a draw if you do it as a whole.
And I get that a lot of people won't say Bivol because Beterbiev had a better close in general in the championship rounds. For sure he did. But I mean, if I'm saying Pride style, then I'm betting on the totality of the fight.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
the overall effort.
But I think this plays into the question I wanted to ask you, because you always want to check your own blind spots and take your own L's. And it's not enough for me to say I thought Bivol won, so anyone that says the opposite is wrong. No, there's a lot of nuances, and this is a ridiculously close fight. How much do you believe people like me or you or anybody, Luke, can get too caught up in the storylines where because Bivol accomplished the scenario in which a lot of us thought he would lose? I picked a late Beterbiev stoppage because I haven't seen anybody stand up to that tsunami of pressure and power shots. And really, to be fair, Beterbiev fought so well, even though I don't think he fought the best performance he could have. It was such an even fight where they were canceling each other out so much. Do you think because Bivol not only didn't get stopped, but because he was the perceived smaller man or perceived lighter puncher, and he had the best, most eye-catching offensive moments of the fight, do you think him winning that story of the fight, to take the old Max Kellerman phrase, is making us overvalue some of these rounds? Because it's like, holy shit, he's the boxer, and he's standing directly in front of Beterbiev outside of until the end when he was circling more. But, I mean, he's giving it back to him and landing the bigger shots, and it's like, oh, shit. Does that jade you in your head? Like, he's doing something maybe I didn't think he could. So that is,
that sounds like a you thing. I thought he could do what he did. I didn't know if he would ultimately pull it off, but I thought that there was a charitable way to look at that and think, I think he can do it.
So if he had stopped Beterbiev, you wouldn't have been insanely shocked?
No, if he stopped Beterbiev, I thought there was a outside but real chance he could have knocked him down.
Yes.
Did not think there was much of a chance he was going to stop him. If he had stopped Beterbiev, that would have been next level.
Didn't you feel in round 7 for that quick moment when Bivol was swarming on him that Beterbiev was hurt?
For a second, I did, but then 10 seconds later, the fight completely shifts.
And he got angry.
He got angry. He started putting it on him. And by the way, the advice that the corner gave of him in English for Beterbiev, which was, if you notice, they said stay on him. They wanted to, when he would move laterally, they wanted him right on top of Bivol to give him no space, and then touch, and then rip to the body, which was some of his body work I thought was pretty incredible. It was heavy early, heavy late. Put up the stats if you can from CompuBox. I know they're a little bit hard to see. I'm going to put on my Jesus Christ, I'm fucking blind as shit. I can't see a goddamn thing.
I can read that. So Bivol had a slight edge in total punches landed, 142 to 137. The Bivol 50% of power punches landed jumps out huge.
That's insane.
But Beterbiev did attempt a lot more punches overall, more than 250 overall.
Yeah, I just want to point out though, if you look at the overall punching totals, look at the rounds, and even rounds where one is more than the other one, the difference is usually quite minimal.
So close. Yes.
There's several, like round 6, where numerically anyway they are tied. This is what I mean.
I mean, are we saying round 1 and 2 are the only
clear
rounds for either guy?
Well,
I mean, I thought Beterbiev was kind of
clear
round
Bivol.
8.
I mean,
round 8 I thought was as clear a Beterbiev round as you could have had.
10 and 11 I thought
10
were
and
strong
11 were
Beterbiev
clear,
rounds.
yeah.
12 is a swing round for me.
Okay, so there's more than I thought there, but I mean, so for all that talk that I did trying to sway why Bivol should have won, what are we missing on what Beterbiev did from championship guile and knowing how to win fights to be able to make sure he did win this one?
So definitely pouring it on in the second half. You could hear his corner even talk to him about it. We're in the 7th round now. They knew that there was about to be a switch, and there was. You can just look at the first half offense compared to the second half, and it went up significantly. That's one. 2, he never got deterred by the movement of Bivol. And remember, Bivol wasn't just, there were times when he was doing this, and I thought that really cost him. But then there's times he's going side to side, and then as he moves, he's throwing a punch with it and then catching Beterbiev clean. It never deterred him from just staying on top of him, so he really stuck to his game plan. I thought that he realized that when he had good opportunities, he would seize them and throw more behind it. Some of the body work, especially early, especially late, was great.
Do you think Beterbiev was swayed away from using his jab as a weapon and going consistently to the body because of Bivol's speed?
Yes, I think the speed, the foot speed, and the hand speed of Bivol were clearly better.
Yeah.
Clearly better. Beterbiev looked like a very tactical, patient, powerful guy. He did not look like the swifter athlete by any stretch of the imagination.
But to do that after knee surgery and have that level 12-round stamina, that's impressive.
He's super impressive. He didn't have an ounce of fat on him.
Didn't they look like two warriors from the 1400s that were sent to
for days, Brian
to
Campbell.
Represent their village and were just going to fight to the death? They had that. Some people were tweeting, this is the best of what Russian boxing could be. And shout out to a country producing these two great champions.
No doubt about it.
Regardless of war affiliations at the moment and all of that. It showed out for Russia in that regard, but again, I'll reiterate, I missed how great of a fight it was. And now I think the rematch, we were talking about that potential off camera with Long Island Luke Noseda over there. I think the rematch will be more offensive on both sides because of how close this first one was. And I think they both will have a bigger level of comfortability because they were both careful, yet crazy trying to win. I mean, dude, Beterbiev's defense was on point as well. Not as tight as Bivol, but for that destroyer to show that level of craft, it was a tense fight. I think the rematch, you'll see more flow, more offense. This is going to be a spectacular shootout.
The last thing I want to say on this, and we'll move on to UFC content here in just a second, which is it felt like just by virtue of how they matched up, where they were, because when Beterbiev landed, obviously the Muslim fighter, he's going to be in a Muslim country. There's no problem with that, but of course he's going to be cheered a little bit more when he lands or when he moves downhill. This is one thing that I think really bothers us. One, BC, like there was a draw and on the scorecards, fine, 7-5 I can live with. But there was no scorecard that reflected how great Bivol did.
You're right.
And that's just like really...
That's why I said raw deal, almost like
difficult
bad
to swallow.
luck.
But there's something else to it too, which is that, and that we had known this on the commentary, Tim Bradley had said it as well, which was, in order to win this, Bivol has to fight a perfect fight.
Yeah.
And he didn't fight a perfect fight and he lost. But the thing I want to say is we almost set it up like in order to get to the finish line, Bivol has to do more and be better than Beterbiev does. And I think that is true. It is true that like the task that Bivol had in front of him was much more difficult in a sense, given the style matchup and given the strengths, than the task that Beterbiev had. Now, beating Bivol is not some easy task, but like round over round, minute over minute, more is expected of Bivol. And so I kind of feel like he had more to deal with. And the fact that also isn't reflected in the scoring just doesn't sit right.
That's a good way to kind of say what is the fuel of what we're feeling right there. But
very quick.
But I think it played out that way because the judges ultimately valued what they felt were more thudding, powerful shots from Beterbiev. So he did need to be perfect, and I think that's why the rematch will be even better because he'll be more offensive and take
very
more
quickly.
chances.
How does it all line up? They look like they're going to do the rematch. We had Turkey on TV saying basically as much.
As soon as the fight ended, he said
he wanted to do it. Both guys seem like they want to do it as well. BC, my question is this. Where do David Benavidez and David Morrell, who are also at 175, there's no real belt on the line with this one. They're unifying some secondary belts essentially and some interim belts. So where does that put them? And also, Canelo wanted Bivol if he emerged victorious from this. Well, now he's got no belts. Where does this leave Canelo, Benavidez, and Morrell?
I think because Turkey badly wants this rematch. Turkey, like I said, was caught on camera saying to Bivol, like, I think you won. Or not caught on camera. He said it right in the interview afterwards. He thought Bivol won by 2 rounds, but he loves both guys. He'd love to see it again. Look, that's the guy who's writing the checks. I like the humble nature of both warriors afterwards. I thought Bivol did a great job being as humble as possible, but also reiterating what he wants, the second chance here. So look, maybe Benavidez versus Morrell in that regard produces obviously a proven first crack at the undisputed championship in terms of the next big fight for that champion, whoever comes out of that rematch. Canelo's obviously the wild card because, Luke, I got to ask you, what if Bivol comes back and wins a competitive decision here? Canelo's going to want to enter that sweepstakes probably to get his chance at the 4 belts.
Yeah,
but
I have less than
maybe,
zero interest.
I don't have less than 0. No, I don't. I have more than less than 0. But maybe, do you think maybe that's the catnip that does get us Benavidez-Canelo, but we'll get it at 175? Or you don't really care?
I don't
and
think
you don't
Canelo
think
is any way interested in fighting the appropriate tough fights.
He's not going to fight back. People think that Beterbiev somehow didn't look great, and now Canelo can beat him.
would fucking put a beating on him.
Yes, he would. And then Bivol, too, again in the rematch, I
yes,
believe.
I mean, I didn't see anything from Bivol that told me that a fight with Canelo would go differently. In fact, it looked to me like, oh, right, he would do that again. Bivol's fucking great.
So
He's
would you
great.
get fired up at Benavidez-Morrell winner facing the winner of a rematch for here?
I would love that. And I don't know. I mean, think about it. If Beterbiev wins again and Benavidez wins again, you actually like that fight a little bit more. Because if it was Morrell versus Beterbiev, one, I don't think Morrell is really up for the challenge. But it's a style contrast where one Slickster is going to be on the outside and Bivol is going to be center. Benavidez wants to do the exact same thing. I mean, they're different styles, but at the core, they both want to march the other guy down. Well, someone's going to have to give that up in that fight. I would fucking love to see who comes out on top there.
That's probably the best iteration, but don't discount if Bivol wins in a rematch with Beterbiev. how good a fight with him and Benavidez can be. And this standpoint, Benavidez claims and everyone else that was there when they sparred that time that Benavidez was putting it on him. So you got to take that with a grain of salt, however you feel. But I've seen multiple interviews where Benavidez doesn't brag about it, but he's like, yeah, I was fucking giving it to him. What do you think about that?
I think sparring is one thing, fighting is another, but it certainly makes me intrigued to want to see that. I mean,
Yes.
there's no iteration of that I would turn down. Even if it's Bivol-Morrell, I would take that. I mean, all the combinations work. I'm just simply saying the one that's the most rugged is a Beterbiev versus Benavidez. Holy shit, man.
Shouldn't we
We got to move on.
Okay, but shouldn't we at least give Canelo the respect and say the loss to Bivol came during that stretch when his left arm was injured and he didn't get surgery on it and he couldn't give his all in training camp? I'm not saying that as an excuse because he made the decision to cash those checks and go in with those fights, and most of those he won. It was just during that stretch where we thought he was getting older.
Do you really think he'd win more rounds in a rematch?
I'm just saying, should we
Do
give
you
him
think he'd win more rounds in a rematch?
than he did the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think he'd win more rounds in a rematch.
I don't. I
But
think it'd be about the
he'd win.
same. I think it'd be about the same.
We'll see, because money talks, Luke.
It does talk. That is
All right.
true. Very true. All right, let's go to point number 2. There were some UFC fights over the weekend. In fact, the main event at the Apex, or UFC Vegas 98, was sensational. Brandon Royval getting the win, and it was a tough one to do, but he gutted it out over Tatsuro Taira. He wins via split decision. Probably should have been unanimous, but nevertheless, heading into the 5th, BC, that was a 2-2 fight if ever there was one. My question for you is, okay, one, your biggest takeaway from this, but the second part is he's now lost to the current champ, which is Pantoja. I know he's got a
Yes.
fight coming up against Asakura. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if it ends up being him, he's already lost to him twice.
I know.
So what did he actually get from this? Biggest takeaway, what did he get?
Okay, first and foremost, with a bang, he showed us and reminded us that he's still a threat to this title, despite going up there on the title level and losing a competitive decision to Pantoja in their rematch. Yes, he has the potential to be behind the 8 ball, but obviously in Royval's house, they're going to be Team Asakura moving forward to hope that gives him. I think he secured the next shot at the belt, unless it is Pantoja and unless there isn't somebody else. I mean, did KKF get screwed in this decision in the title picture? There's another big name that
We
could
don't
be in there
know
as well.
if he got offered it and couldn't take it,
Sure.
or something else could be going on.
I mean, at the very Royval's going to get another big fight. What a gutsy performance from both fighters. And what I love the most, this was that perfect style contrast. It almost had Holm versus Tate vibes in the sense that they took turns completely dominating with
That's
their
right.
lead skill, only to lose the next round as dominantly in the other way. It had fight of the year vibes, I thought, in that 3rd round, which was batshit crazy, where the momentum switched out of nowhere. But I think ultimately Royval, despite having problems on the ground against a dynamic grappler in Taira, he was more game, more gutsy, and he showed that veteran streak in him and saying, I'm going to have to win this close fight, and this is my way to do it. Him in round 5 being that stubborn to keep his back off the ground, or when he was taken down to immediately work back up, showed you the dog inside the raw dog, where at the very least he held serve that he's the status you have to beat to get to the title. And if things go his way in terms of the future, he might actually be next, because I thought it was that strong of a performance against a guy who was being groomed to be great. And then you add in that sensational promo he cut afterwards, which we can't show because they'll take us down again, the UFC will. But Luke, I thought that he showed humility in saying that Taira is a future champion and offering to help him and train him and whatever. I hadn't realized that these two had sparred in the past, which gave Royval the confidence that he thought he was going to knock him out early. All in all, Luke, this was tremendous theater. This fight was awesome. Do you think it ends in the fight of the year consideration?
It might make the list. I don't think it can't win it, but it definitely is a phenomenal contest. You know what I loved about it? One, it's going to be a big learning lesson for Taira. That 3rd round you talk about, when the momentum shift, he was getting eaten alive.
Dude, he does not move his head at all.
I mean, he is going to have to go. Like, what I like about this one is, for example, I don't want to. The comparisons don't make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. I don't want to compare it to Beterbiev, Bivol, but any changes that those guys make are going to be very, very narrow, specific.
Sure.
The good news if you're Taira is that, like, it's no mystery why you lost. Like, we're sitting here trying to parse, like, well, maybe the judges favored this part and that part. It's very easy to understand why Taira lost. In part, he was too reliant on the takedown. Some of his finishing needs work, and on the feet, holy shit, he doesn't move his head. And that nearly cost him the fight. But 2 things I want to say. One, Taira showing the guts to survive that,
Yes.
and then win the next
moxie.
round.
Really, think about it. The 3rd round was so crazy because after he got rocked and was on the verge of getting stopped by Royval, he started to just throw such crazy haymakers that would turn into desperate takedown attempts that it took a couple desperate attempts that led to him. Remember, he grabbed the arm of Royval and just dragged him down.
Yep.
That's not only what saved him from getting stopped, but then within seconds, he's threatening and he's moving around and suddenly he's in position to choke. His moxie under high duress and even being wobbled and hurt to be able to never stop finding an angle to try to win the fight. Royval knows what he saw and what he felt in there. That's championship moxie. It is.
I remember when Evan Tanner fought Phil Baroni the first time, and after the fight he barely survived an onslaught from Phil Baroni. Phil Baroni in Mexican jail for allegedly killing someone, I think his girlfriend at the time. Anyway.
Neither here nor there, right? Just, fact.
That's a real fact. But the point I wanted to make was that if you go back and you watch the post-fight interview, the first thing Evan Tanner says is, holy shit, that guy hits hard. First thing Brandon Royval says in this one is that guy's a future champion. And he's right. You can get better with the head movement. You absolutely can. He can work on that. But the grit he showed to survive, there were like 2.5 minutes left and he's getting teed off on by Brandon Royval, and he managed to survive and then win the next round. But
he almost had to choke a few times, Tyra. A few times.
For sure. I don't want to in any way underrate it. He had a great second round performance, obviously, as well. But this is what I loved about Brandon Royval. So as much as I liked about Taira, he's got time to improve. He knows exactly what has to get better, and he showed a ton of fucking dog. But Brandon Royval, starting strong, had a bad second round, came out and put it on him on round 3, had a guy who would not go away in round 4, but in round 5, when it counted the most, he dug deep into his veteran bag of tricks and understanding about where in fights to press the gas, where to press the brake, and he took that fight by the scruff of the neck, and that is why they won, because they were pretty evenly matched.
You listen to his corner, too. His corner was 100%. Smart.
A very, very coachable guy.
Yeah.
But point I wanted to make was, that was, heading into the 5th round, you knew it was 2-2. You knew it was a gut check moment, and one of them was able to really go deep into that experience, and it was Brandon Royval who did it. Dude, this is a great fight, and what a job well done by the Raw Dog himself.
And the Raw Dog having the emotional promo, but cutting right to the core and making a case for himself and saying nobody in this division has as many wins over people in the top 5 as I do. He makes, he's got a great case to make from the standpoint that the only people to beat him in the UFC are Moreno and Pantoja, the last 2 champions. I don't want to see him caught behind the 8 ball, but he may end up having to fight a KKF or somebody if Pantoja stays champion, right?
If Pantoja stays champion, the KKF situation, I'm not sure how they want to resolve that, but I would say this, like Brandon Royval, to me, doesn't need to fight again before he gets a title shot. I don't know if that's what he wants. I don't know if that's what the UFC wants.
Well, he's no longer being that cheap-ass hoe. He said it, right? He's not going to pick up that.
But then he's like, I'll fight anybody. I'll be the backup. It's like, okay, but don't do those things either. But either way, what a phenomenal performance by him. But I do want to point out one thing. Again, we talk about the judging, and because the commission won't talk to us, we have really no way of understanding the full context here. Put up the graphic we have, if you can, Logan and Luke. Now, these are the decisions here from UFC.
On 6 split decisions on Saturday.
Which was a record, by the way. I think for the Apex.
Oh wait, not all of these are split. There's a few unanimous.
But it's not all the decisions that I want you to pay attention to. Look at the highlighted Sal D'Amato. He was on the so if it's highlighted in yellow, that means he's on the opposite of how the other 2 judges scored it. So he had, for example, in the Pilastri versus McKenna fight, he had it for McKenna,
which was wrong. It was dead wrong.
Dead wrong. And the Rodriguez versus Moreno fight, he had it for Moreno, which is also a little sketch. And then in this one, in the Taira Royval fight, he had it for Taira. BC, what 3 rounds could you give to Taira?
So he
2,
definitely
4,
gave
and what
him
else?
3, because 3 was the
round he got fucking tuned up in.
He must have been giving him the credit for taking him down and threatening that choke down the stretch there. And I think it's wrong. So look,
that's a fucking insane.
He's the outlier
on
3 fights in one night, which means you went 0 for 3. You struck out. 3 strikes, you're out.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't mind if one guy is the outlier if you can kind of understand it.
3 times.
Okay, I admit it's a bit of a red flag if you do it 3 times. I'm just saying, what are the 3 rounds for Taira? You can't find them. This is my point.
Could you argue the 5th? I think you would be wrong in arguing the 5th, but could you argue the 5th?
I don't think so. He had his back taken. He was getting beat up on from there as well.
Too.
Like, I just don't see how you can do that.
His nose got busted early in round 5 too, so that adds.
You know what? Actually, I can find the scorecard if you give me a minute here from the UFC. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, I can find it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna look it up here. Scorecards.
Take all the time you need, Luke. I get paid by the hour here.
Do we? I don't. All right, hold on. Here we go. So here is the scorecard for the Brandon Royval and Tatsuro Taira fight. Let me blow this up here if I can. Good Lord, dude. I can't see for shit anymore.
You do have glasses there.
I know. Okay, I blew it up here. So Sal D'Amato gave round 1 to Taira, round 2 to Taira, and round 4. How the fuck do you give round 1 to Taira?
1, 2. Okay, 2. That is
round 3. He gave it to obviously Brandon Royval. He gave round 1.
Royval. You could go as far, even though Taira did land a couple big right hands, you could go as far as say as Royval dominated the striking in round 1 and wasn't taken down. I don't believe.
I thought he had not just a winning first round, a strong first round.
That was a dominant first round. Yeah. So this guy's
that's a terrible scorecard,
dude. The McKenna one, I know no one cares on the Corey McKenna one. I do because I'm a big Poppins fan, Luke. But she did, she lost that fight 2-1 seemingly on everyone's card, and that guy had her winning the fight. You know? It's
pretty gross. BC, anything else from that score, that event that stood out to you?
I tried not to let too much of it, Luke, to be honest with you.
Oh, here we go.
I mean, no, seriously. I mean, would you say it played out to be a pretty shitty card?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting much. These Apex cards, I'm like, my general posture on Apex cards is they're all going to be bad. And so when they are occasionally good or a good fight comes from it, I'm like, hey, what a nice surprise.
What about Justin Taffa getting that big knockout on the undercard?
Yeah, that was not a great
Junior
fight.
Taffa.
Junior Taffa, I'm sorry. I should take the tour of Taffa for that. Yeah, there you go. But he came back, right?
They were both huffing and puffing at the end there, were they not?
They
both did
that looked like Data Kimbo, did it
No,
not?
you know what it looked like? It looked like Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit, except that fight was great. That's the difference.
Oh, so it looked like Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz too, is really what you're saying.
Not even that good. Okay. Dude, these Apex cards, like, there are some good fights, there are some good fighters, obviously, but folks haven't wrapped their head. It's just UFC overflow content.
He's
right.
That's
all that it is.
But Nocita, were you the Pilastri, the Brazilian chick that beat McKenna? She's looking like she's a good fighter, like down the line, right?
I'm going to be honest. I missed that fight. I missed the first few fights.
Nobody watches women's MMA anymore but me, apparently.
But shout out to Pat Sabatini. He had a nice win. Also, that flyweight dude, Temirov, he looked really good.
Yep. There's going to be some decent talent on these cards at all times, and then the occasional good to really good fight. But it's mostly just the UFC overflow. These are guys that we have on roster because we need this for the larger content plan. Yeah. Not that they're good. Yeah, it's just completely watered down trash.
But Daniel Rodriguez needed that split decision over Moreno.
He did. He gutted it out. That was a nice win by him as well. All things being what they were. He's getting a little bit older too, long in the tooth. So Moreno, I think, is a guy who has really worked hard to maximize his potential.
But he alternates wins and losses every fight.
He does. He is just at this level. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. But a good test in certain ways for the right kind of fight. With that in mind, BC, let's talk about topic number 3. I'm much more excited about this one.
Yeah, you lost interest in talking about the undercard aggressively. You were like, "Yo, fuck that."
What do you want me to say? Like, I don't have much bandwidth for UFC overflow content.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't.
That's why you don't watch DWCS, right?
Again, I used to love watching the Contender Series, but now I watch it and two things happen. One, you do see great prospects. You also see some fucking bums getting contracts, and that happens way more often.
Don't worry, it's only 12 and 12. They can write that off.
And I see the bums getting contracts way more often than I see somebody really, really good. It's really quite dispiriting.
I think they throw people into the water too quickly, though, coming out of it.
Yeah, there's guys, 4-0, 5-0. It's like you don't need, unless you're really special, you don't need to be 5-0 in the UFC. You need to be 15-2 or something like that before you get there. I just... Again, I can't say that everyone comes out of there as bad, but the amount of just completely unimpressive talent getting contracts is just like, why the fuck do I want to spend time watching that?
Big roster, but they got a lot of dates to fill.
They got a lot. And again, you go, oh, look, this guy was on there. He's really good. That is true. There are some good fighters that come out of there, and there's no question. But a lot of bums. All right, BC, let's talk about topic number 3. So UFC 310 got announced by UFC President Dana White, which of course means that some of these fights may not be signed, and we're just talking about them like they are signed. But nevertheless, let's talk about them just the same. Okay, I want to go through this card. Put up the graphic if you can, Long Island Luke, so we can see it here. So what got announced was for the UFC welterweight title, Belal Muhammad taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. Your co-main event, Alexandre Pantoja taking on Kai Asakura. Kai Asakura, one of the guys making his UFC debut at a title shot. This has happened many times in the past, but obviously more recently is very, very rare.
Sure.
That'll be for the flyweight title, as I mentioned. You're going to get the rematch between Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov. Vicente Luque will finally lock horns with a 40-year-old plus Nick Diaz.
Why?
However, in a very interesting bout, Movsar Evloev taking on Aljamain Sterling. Obviously, Sterling up at 145 now. This is essentially, certainly for Evloev, a number one contenders fight. BC, 2 questions for you.
And there's another great women's fight on there too. Jandiroba.
Yes, taking on Tatiana Suarez.
Yes,
that is right. And some other ones as well. There's more than that just as well. Josh Javan's on that card, I think, against Cody Durden. I believe that's right. In any case, from what we saw there, give me a rating on this card, because I know what you're going to say, and I think this is the one topic where I feel like you're completely wrong. But go ahead.
I had a lot of arguments about this card since it was announced.
Yes.
And it's like you can go, like, okay, from the hardcore side, yeah, it's a deep card with fights I want to see. So it's by no means an awful card. I just feel like for everything we talk about, the watered down of the matchmaking and the loss of the next level star power and crossover ability, and just that it feels very manufactured at times. This used to be a major. This was the New Year's Eve Vegas card.
What is
every
wrong
December.
with this card? Tell me what is wrong with this card.
That now in the ESPN era is at the beginning of the month. I just think it lacks star power, and it kind of is like a editorial on where they're at. You know what I mean? Like, didn't you expect Makhachev for this? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know what you're going to say. Well, these are not bad fights. Dude, I want to see Asakura in this fight like hell against Pantoja. I want to see if it's Shavkat's time to put on the crown. I just feel like this is the purest example of the era that we're in, and people are just like, yeah, but I'm happy at least it's deep and there's fights I like. This doesn't have that star factor. I mean, where's McGregor? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, Luke? Like, this would be the time for that it used to have, where I don't know if there is majors anymore, maybe outside of MSG and the annual October Abu Dhabi card, which gets the best matchmaking. It just was a little, I mean, am I allowed from not a casual side of my white belt heart, but from like a business side / job security side? Like, hit me with the big ones that are going to draw the attention and crossover. It's not that era anymore. But don't you feel that at all? That there's like who's selling this card, Luke? The UFC brand and the depth and the fact that it may be Shavkat's night. I get that. But should we care anymore? Like, that this used to kind of mean something, and it would be somebody here that it's like, damn, I have to see that. This is not a let's get the friends together and do the weekend trip card. It's a hardcore card in the December major spot. That's the last I'll say on that. I am disappointed, though. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I don't feel disappointed at all. Now, I cannot in any way challenge one of the arguments that you made, which is kind of your core argument, but does this card lack star power? Yes, it does. There really isn't an argument around
or even
that.
Must see. Like,
oh no, I disagree with that. I really
very
disagree
good
with
fights,
that.
but not must see. Like Topuria Holloway. Oh my God, is must see. Even Chimaev, Robert Whittaker to me has like must see feel.
Dude, on what planet is Shavkat Rakhmonov fighting for the welterweight title not must see? I mean,
we're talking
serious.
about the main event, though, of one of the four major.
The welterweight title is up for grabs against one of the, if not the most exciting
badass
contender in the entire sport, irrespective of weight class.
Yeah, but don't confuse the two arguments here. I'm not talking about that the fight sucks and that we don't need it. No, it's going to show us a lot that we want to see.
I think there's two problems. Well, no,
you can't fight the star argument by talking how good that fight is on a hardcore level. I'm talking about I'm not talking about just that when I bring up Shavkat. Yes, I do think that on a hardcore level, Shavkat will be exciting. I do think he will win. Although people think, I think he's going to, people assume that because I like Rakhmonov, I think he's going to run over Belal. I don't think that. I think Belal can make him human. My early read on this, BC, if you disagree, by all means say so. My early read is you can't leave Rakhmonov hanging around for 25 minutes without paying a very stiff penalty for it. I just feel But can Belal gas and control him? That'll be the question,
I think for parts of the fight, he absolutely can. I just feel like you cannot let a guy like that hang around for 25 minutes and not pay a very stiff penalty.
And I don't want to be the crybaby here standing on the corner with the sign. So let's shelf the.
No, I think you speak for some fans. I don't think you're being crazy. The lack of star power it's not a problem with this card. It's partly a problem with certain guys not being available at the moment. That's partly,
Where's Wei Li? Why is this not Wei Li Tatiana?
she wouldn't change the star power equation. I'm
no,
sorry.
but it would upgrade it. Yeah.
It would upgrade it a little bit, certainly. But then you'd have to, you could sub that one in and change out the co-main. By the way, the co-main is going to be a banger. Kai Asakura is a limited fighter, but a talented one and a dominant puncher. So I think
Pantoja's in his dog era where he's just not taking shit.
he will take risks as well. Like, that's going to be a great fight. I'm actually kind of curious to see how that one goes. But let me just say this: like, put the card back up one more time if you can, Long Island. Let's just look at it from an overall standpoint. You have 2 title fights, including one of the most prestigious titles that they have, which I do believe, historically speaking, welterweight is one of their more prestige weight classes. I recognize that some people are not as enthusiastic about Belal Muhammad, but it is a division of record, number one. That's the first thing I'd say. Second of all, Gane versus Volkov, the second of these, is not necessarily off the rip the most exciting
an important fight, though.
But it is an important fight to move this division forward, especially as John and Stipe ride off into the sunset.
Things have changed since their first matchup in terms of where they both stand that I am interested in seeing.
100%. Volkov has earned this, and there's some questions about Gane.
Yes.
Now, Luque versus Diaz, to me, is the weakness of this card.
Let me ask you.
Hold on, let me just get through very quickly. I do agree it is the weakness of this card. I don't have much to say in defense of it. It'll probably be as exciting as long as it lasts. However, you have an Evloev versus Sterling, essentially a number one contenders fight. So what I'm trying to point out here is, on paper, 2 title fights, arguably 2 number one contender fights. That's what you want UFC to put together for a December pay-per-view.
It's got depth.
And the Rakhmonov fight, I'm going to say it one more time, he is arguably the most exciting contender in all of MMA. I got to tell you, pants around the ankles for this one.
Dude, I'm not talking about the quality of the depth and how good these fights could be. It was almost 2 separate arguments in one, but it went across the board. Now, would you have preferred that was a Nick Diaz, Tony Ferguson, like, maybe not loser leaves town, both leave town? Like, we'll celebrate them on the way out of a sloppy action fight.
I'm not interested in seeing Nick Diaz fight anymore.
Yeah, I'm not.
That sounds like I'm not trying to be a fucking hater. Like, Nick Diaz has changed. Literally, he changed the fight world, both in the fight itself, in the fights themselves, and then outside with some of his battles with commissions around marijuana. Like, he actually has played a very important role in the fight game. But I'm not interested in watching him get.
But he's on this main card to do some level of damage control for a lack of a crossover selling.
He's the biggest star on the card.
Yes,
I mean that's the reality here, which kind of tells you about the state of the UFC's current roster. What's really happening is they just don't have a lot of stars in the way that they might have had access to a different set of players before. And then they have a lot of cards to fill. That's another problem.
I think their strategy doesn't create stars, and I don't think they, compared to what they used to do, they don't play into that and invest in building the star.
That's a very...
Now you can say some of that is because the fighters have their own platforms now. So it's a different ball game altogether. But whatever money
it's definitely true that they don't try to build stars quite with the same...
Like media tours, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, again, when they were very reliant on pay-per-view money and they needed to have these big pronounced wins on these dates on the calendars, they obviously still would like to do well, but it's not as much of an imperative. And so promoting it in that kind of way or building stars in that way is not as much of an imperative. And you're now seeing the fruits of that. I'm simply pointing out, I kind of have accepted that reality to a degree. We are where we are. And so what can you ask of the UFC given, this is what I mean, like there's nobody challenging their business model. Nobody can challenge their business model. So you're just going to get what you're going to get. Them putting 2 title fights and then arguably 2 number one contender bouts on the card, that's what you can expect from them. And they did deliver that. And I think Rakhmonov, could be a big overseas star for them. I'm told that in Kazakhstan, he's the biggest star in that country behind only Triple G. Triple G is bigger, fair enough, but Rakhmonov is right behind him. There's something valuable there.
Absolutely. And when I take the stances like that, it's almost as a watchman of the old guard of eras that don't exist anymore. And I get to some of you, it's like, enough of that sour grapes and just enjoy the fights. But Luke, isn't some of it just being like, I don't want to see this sport become a microwave for bringing new fans in for 6 months and driving them out? You know what I mean? You want to see the business you work in be as big and grand and successful as possible.
Yes.
And I especially this calendar year, you don't feel that. You feel like there's areas where like, capitalize on the John Jones Aspinall, capitalize on this, capitalize on the things you can control, rather than just like, no, we have to fill as many dates as possible and stretch it out, and this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
it is the reality. I got to get over it and get with it. But I do yearn for it to be at full capacity, what it could be. But it's it's not set up to be that anymore. So I'll shut the hell up. All right.
Aussie Rules Luke, give me a 1 to 10 grading of this card.
I'm gonna give it an 8. I think it's pretty solid.
Man, you guys are fucking tough crowds.
Wait,
man.
what do you give
I'll
it?
give
Luke?
it. I'll give it
That's a
an
9.
8.3.
That's a 9, yeah.
8.3.
It's better than 307. I'll say that much.
Well, I mean, that's not saying a lot. 307 was kind of nubs, you know. 308's fantastic.
308's great. I mean,
309's
like BC
309's
said,
okay.
it's one of the majors now.
309's okay.
309 is what? DDP?
Is Jones and
that's right.
Stipe,
MSG,
which
yeah.
is the most unnecessary fight imaginable. But Chandler versus Oliveira 2. There's some good
Yeah.
fights on that card. Anyway, I just feel like this card, for me, if Rakhmonov goes in there and finishes him, you would have somebody who was undefeated
Yes.
and finished every opponent all the way through winning a UFC weight class title. Like, that is extremely special, extremely rare. Now,
it
of
would
course,
be-
Belal could win. I
But
mean,
it would also be pretty awesome and special on a smaller scale the same way if Asakura in a pro debut. I know everyone's digging up the
UFC
stats.
debut, not pro.
Right. I meant UFC debut. I know everyone's digging up the stats of this has happened this many times, whatever, 22 or 23, but so many of those circumstances are tied to
Yeah, it's
The
basically only
old way.
3 in the modern era.
Right. So many are tied to either the old way or when Pride was done and people are coming in and making their UFC debut. That this is really interesting. It speaks to where the division's at too. I mean, this division's wild, man. I love it.
Also, I'll just say this: like, Kai Asakura was the Ryzen bantamweight champion. He beat Juan Archuleta. That's why we were confused previously when talking about, because I was like, didn't he just fight in a bantamweight fight? He did, and he won that title. He gave it up, obviously, I think, to ultimately lead the way for this signing. He must have had some indication that's where he was going to be going. The point I wanted to make was I kind of like it, like a champion from another organization versus a
Yeah.
champion from the UFC. UFC used to lean, MMA organizations more generally used to lean into that a little bit more. I kind of dig that as a bit of a throwback way to do things. Obviously, it's not on the line, so
How about Asakura Royval for the title at Saitama Super Arena? You down with
listen?
that?
I think he's earned it. I
Okay.
think he's earned it.
He's got to win it first.
And they don't go to Tokyo though. That's where they always go. They always go to Saitama Super Arena. I don't know how the Japanese would treat a raw dog named fighter, but
I love that his new catchphrase is what was it? 4 babies, 6 baby mamas. That's what he always says. This is like his joke. Like when people ask about the nickname.
oh right, I wasn't listening during that.
Most of the show, but that's fine, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, there's only so much Brian Campbell I can take.
Yeah,
this week.
I know. They made a whole channel to contain all of it these days. Man, I should never have shaved, Luke. You know what I mean?
BC,
You know, I mean, just be honest. You know, my dad had a big mustache my whole life, and 2 times in my youth he shaved it, and it like freaked us all out.
yeah.
you know?
Have you seen the videos of like dads shaving their faces and then going up to their babies or toddlers and scaring them? Yeah.
What would it take for you to shave that off? What would it
Um,
take? Because you would never have the guts to put your beard on the line in any type of show.
Yeah, like
bet.
a house fire. You know what I mean? Like it would have to like bake me.
Oh, like you like they burned half your
Yeah.
face. You're like, sure, you're gonna have to shave the rest, or it's gonna look
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. It's someone throwing acid in my face or something. You know.
What do you think you would look like? Do you ever think about that? Because
I was in the Marine Corps the entire time without one.
Yeah, but
Like,
that your face, your shape was just different. You were young.
yeah, I don't. Probably terrible. Probably it's like a turtle without its shell. Who the fuck wants to see that?
It's
you
like
know?
when Chuck took off his hat that time when he was on camera.
I know. And I was like, Darth Vader, is that you?
Anakin. Is that
BC,
you?
very quickly, let's go
Little
down the list.
bitch.
Early predictions. Gun to your head. You have total right to change your mind from now until then. Rakhmonov, Muhammad.
It's Rakhmonov's time.
All right. Asakura and Pantoja.
You know, I'm waiting for Pantoja's like recent. I'm going to take all the damage no matter what, and this is how I'm going to win these fights to catch up with him at this age. He's a dog, though. I mean, I'm going to still lead Pantoja to get it done, but
Okay.
I want to see. as
Kai
we
has
get closer
upset
to that.
potential for sure.
Yes, he does.
The Cyril Gane and Volkov
Yeah,
2.
I don't know. This would be a great moment for Cyril Gane to come back offensively and completely remind us who he used to be and can still be at times. I doubt sometimes if that guy's still in there. This would be the matchup because he has the one dominant advantage he needs in this, which is speed compared to how slow Volkov is. Even though Volkov is smart and tough as crap and has really seemed to round out his game of late to try to get the most he can out of it. But I think that speed difference really hurts him still, even in this rematch.
Luque and Diaz.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. And then lastly, Evloev and
I
Sterling.
don't
Great
know.
fight.
That's a great fight. That feels so 50-50 to me of any on this
Very
card, right?
50-50. Because I think the better pure wrestler is Evloev, and I think he's probably
Yes.
stronger, although Sterling is very strong. But the better backpacker and the quicker guy of the two is definitely Sterling.
Aljo always has a way to like come back after a tough fight too.
He's a
and just
very
turn
talented
it
guy.
back up.
People want to dismiss him. He's a very talented
Yeah.
guy. Something to keep in mind. All right, BC. Let's talk about BKFC. First of all, shouts to Oscar Willis.
Yes. Have you seen this shit? We'll have a Oscar Willis dedicated section.
Okay.
That man had Bengali tiger-sized balls. You would go that far?
Both of them, I thought.
Yes.
Had getting off the canvis the way that Ben the Bane Davis did is not easy.
Ben Davis, the Bane, got dropped 4 times in a first-round TKO win for Oscar. And, we'll certainly hit it when we show some.
You know what's kind of funny about that, if I could say very quickly? Have you ever been to, like, a regional MMA fight ever in your life?
I've been to Bellator Post-Slims, which is very regional MMA.
No. I'm talking, like, have you ever been inside of a pool hall that they just put MMA? So I've done all of that.
Yeah.
I've seen people knocked out in parking
lots. You called
lots.
fights for Brendan Schaub's second pro fight.
But that was at least in the Eagle Bank Arena on the campus of George Mason. That was not like that was regional, but that was good regional.
That wasn't like the parking lot outside.
No. I've called fights in a pool hall that was converted and a shooting range that was converted. That's real.
Ominous.
That's real regional MMA. What I wanted to say was, if you watch regional MMA, it looks like what you see between Willis and Davis, where one guy blitzes and just doesn't stop firing, and the other person gets overwhelmed. What you see from good fighters, like look at Bivol and, for example, Beterbiev. We're talking like the opposite end.
Yeah.
Their defense is so good that it's very hard for one to get the chance to really hurt the other guy. It's very, very difficult. Whereas in the opposite end of that, which is what this was, basically the first guy to hurt the other guy ends up winning the
Bane,
fight.
to his credit, actually landed some big shots trying to counter that blitz. Inevitably, the blitz would always lead to him getting knocked down, but he tried his best to weather that
I'm just saying,
storm,
if you go to regional MMA, and again, I know this is bare knuckle, but I'm just saying, if you go to regional MMA, you'll see if they'll have like 25 fights on the card, 15 will end just like that.
Yes.
15 will end just like that. So this gives you a sense of things. But the interesting part that came out of this, BC, was that Conor McGregor and Dan Hooker, who were in attendance.
Hooker was in the corner of
Ben the Bane Davis. Of Oscar Willis, excuse me. I apologize. They both said that they're going to be fighting each other in February in Saudi Arabia. We have 2 clips of this I want to show. First, let's show the Dan Hooker clip.
No, Conor first. This is the first we heard of it.
Okay, so Conor, I think, spoke to...
He was walking out of the arena.
He was walking out of the arena. He is asked about what he's going to be fighting next. We have audio on this clip, I'm assuming. Let's roll that one, please.
What's your message for Floyd? Conor, do we have a date for the comeback yet?
February 4th, Saudi Arabia.
Who's the opponent?
Okay, so February 1st.
Sounds official. He was walking down a hallway.
I mean, could he have party voice more than he does right now?
So you're saying 365 consecutive days.
Yeah, he hasn't been sober in a long time. All right, but then let's go to what Dan Hooker had to say. He spoke to the boys he spoke to Submission Radio. Yeah, the boy.
We're kindred spirits, as you could say. We get along quite well. I think we're both very similar. There's a lot of similarities there. Yeah, we just spoke in the ring and just like I'm on board, he's on board. We just need to get the UFC on board and we'll get this thing across the line.
Okay, BC. In the words of Aaron Bronstetter, we've got a fight except we have no date. Well, he said February 1st, but there's really nothing confirmed.
No date, no site.
We have no promotional contract, no venue, no nothing. To me, it's like it's just 2 guys talking, but you seem to think that there's something here. I don't.
No. Okay, they just proved to you that it's 2 guys talking. I mean, there is video of Dan Hooker in the ring. I don't know if it was after the event, whatever, with a beer in his hand, and Conor and him are laughing it up and talking. And I'm sure they probably hatched the idea right there. And I'm sure Hooker came on this trip probably, to support Oscar for sure, but was hoping this could happen. The reason why I don't completely dismiss it is ask yourself this. Who is a better opponent for Conor right now, knowing that Chandler's going to have the rematch with Oliveira coming up in MSG? Conor already said he wants to fight before that, and he is ready to fight Chandler no matter what happens. Dan Hooker is kind of the perfect opponent. He's getting there in terms of age, but could still win a big one. He is riding a 3-fight win streak, but he's also going to get you into an exciting brawl and is there to be hit. I think this is actually perfect. I mean, this isn't quite Conor against that version of Cowboy, because that version of Cowboy at that time for that comeback fight was washed. I'm not saying that this is a fight Conor could lose, but it's also a fight Conor could win. And given that this comeback continues to extend calendar year after calendar year, who the heck knows what version of Conor could even be produced, especially given the last 365 days, which all seem to be on camera, by the way. I feel like I can prove this assumption here. Luke, I think it's perfect. I actually think in most cases I'd be like, good luck, guys. The only thing you need is the UFC is signing off, which is everything you need. I actually feel like the UFC would look at it and go, yeah, that is the perfect comeback fight. Let's make it a pay-per-view main event. Doesn't even matter if it's bollocks up and down the card underneath that, because this is Conor. I'm happy that Hooker can get that payday, that he's at this point right now, 3-fight win streak. Let's do it. I see nothing wrong about this fight.
I like the fight. I really like the fight. If they made it, I'd be totally happy. I'm skeptical that they make it because I don't know if he's a big enough B-side. Hooker is a legend in Australia, and he's well known to hardcores here. He is not a big name in the United States.
What did Conor say? Saudi he wanted it in? Or did he say Abu Dhabi? Which one?
He said Saudi Arabia.
Then if it was in
But
Saudi.
are they really going to put Conor McGregor in Saudi Arabia? I have a hard time believing. They wouldn't even put Conor McGregor in fucking Ireland.
But what if Turkey's basically like, I'll pay for Conor?
Turkey pays for it?
They're in Saudi Arabia.
New ball game.
Yeah.
New ball game. Okay, fair enough.
Don't you think Riyadh Sisson would want Conor McGregor's first appearance to be,
They
there
would,
in a
but
big
they're
UFC
going to have
event?
to pay premium for that. And I
They
don't
pay
know.
premium. That's what they do.
They do. They could. It is certainly with Saudi Arabia, anything is possible. They could do that. I don't know if they would, but they could. But the point I'm trying to make is I just don't think the UFC really believes that is a big fight for Conor.
And do you think they would reject this style of public matchmaking or what?
Yeah, this is the funny part to me. It's like fighters like, hey, we've got an agreement. We just got to take it to the UFC. It's like you have literally nothing. You have nothing. The UFC, if they want to, like if they think it's a good idea, they'll go along with it. But like their advocacy or enthusiasm for it means nothing to the UFC. It's utterly irrelevant as a concern.
Okay, what's the line? And I don't mean the line to induce bettors. What line accurately portrays where both of these guys are at? Obviously, there's so many question marks about Conor, but Hooker has the right style to be a Conor foil. I don't even know which
Conor minus
120.
a little higher than that. Maybe minus 150, 175, something like that.
Long Island, Luke, you're a degenerate. What do you got on this?
I just made up my own line. It was minus 175 McGregor, plus 150 Hooker.
That sounds exactly right.
How do you read that fight, Long Island, Luke?
Probably Conor gets an early lead, and if Hooker can weather the storm, he takes over in 3, 4, 5.
That's a good read.
He just gets like a gas stoppage.
That's a good read.
Which Conor's
I don't think he gets he could get a
Conor's
stoppage.
gonna, dude. This partying rockstar Conor's gassing out quick.
Yeah, he's gonna go. He's gonna go for it like the first Diaz fight. He's gonna go for it early.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he
That's a
might get
good
him.
read.
He might get him. I mean, is he still a sniper? That's what I'm saying. How much abuse can you do and still?
Who knows?
I mean,
Who knows?
it's not like he's been clean for a year and we're gonna like with Tyson Fury. He had his moments and then he came back and miraculously proved that he can get
moments
clean.
later too.
I think you still got some moments going on there, but it's interesting. It's definitely its own pay-per-view main event with not even a good co-main, right? We're still doing that. That's still the
Probably
economics
yes.
for Conor.
Again, that's the weird part too. Or if they really put Conor at like 5 in the afternoon in Saudi Arabia.
Give me a better answer then. Give me or an alternate. If Chandler's busy, what's the better one? Because Gaethje coming off a bad loss.
Yeah, Gaethje.
So it could be damaged goods Gaethje, but couldn't Gaethje make Conor gas out just with huge violence and
yes. I mean, Conor's up against it. It's not going to be Islam.
Okay, is there
and
an
it's not going to
opponent
be
that Conor
Saryukian, for fuck's sake?
could be wider against an older name or somebody
Well,
smaller?
it could have been
moving up?
Poirier for another fight, but Poirier's like, I got fight news coming up, so it doesn't sound like it's him, so you can write him off.
Yes.
Um,
You think his fight news is Gaethje?
Probably. So the Hooker news is interesting. I mean, it's certainly not a terrible fight. I wonder if there are some complicating factors that would make it unusual to go that direction. But to your point, if it is possible, Saudi Arabia can make it happen.
Would you be upset if it was RDA in 2025?
A little. First of all, he's got a fight coming up anyway.
Yeah.
Who's he fighting at 308?
I'll check. Top of my head, I don't know.
I forget. He's got a fight coming up. It's not an easy one. And yeah, it's because, like, dude, that was like, I mean, he was literally the champion. It was peak RDA. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're not getting a peak version of him at all.
But
Jeff Neal.
Tough fight. And he's a 170.
I mean,
and it's 170.
Cowboy got the Conor comeback fight coming off multiple losses. Let's not forget that.
The Cowboy is...
He had a name. I get it.
Yeah,
a much
bit of
bigger
a
name. But I'm like, don't put it past them that they wouldn't give him complete damaged goods at this point because they don't trust where he's at. So I'm saying, what if they give...
I don't trust
Do you
where
think
he's
they
at.
would give him like a damaged opponent that he can beat? Like we're saying Hooker, might be able to beat if he still has it. But do you think they might go low down and dig and be like, okay, we're going to make sure he wins?
Like
Here's Tony
Serious
Ferguson.
question: Could they, if Nick Diaz beats Luque, could they do that?
Oh,
And I'm not even joking.
Dude, they would, because
if he goes out there
Okay.
and pounds out Luque,
or even just like survives a war and gets a
no, but
split
let's
decision.
even give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's even say he looks like surprisingly good.
Have to have a lot of balls to do that.
They could do it, bro.
That would sell.
They could
that
easily.
would, that would
Big
nostalgic
Diaz
sell.
versus Nick versus McGregor.
Dude, that would be a gross fight too, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be the saddest shit on
Conor
earth.
would play down to the level of his competition, and he might be just as sad in there. Maybe that is the perfect fight for. That is so gross that we're even entertaining that.
Or they just sign Nate Diaz back completely and then just make that fight.
Yeah, I feel like Nate's got more in the tank right now, right? Nate
Or
beats him.
how about what if Nate comes back and fights Dustin Poirier, which is another possibility. They made that fight before
That's
and then
a
it fell
good
apart
call. And even if Nate loses that, you still make
because
the
Nate's
Conor
out there
fight.
kind of tweeting and doing all this shit.
Would you say that the performance Nate showed against Masvidal in the boxing ring gives you confidence that this version of Conor would have trouble against Nate? Or do you think no matter what, they're a close match?
I think no matter what, they're a close match. Yeah.
I tend to differ. I beg the differ on that one.
You beg the differ.
Yes, I
We're
do.
doing skits and bits.
I didn't commit to it. I barely committed to it. It was like, yeah,
We're doing
that's
skits
a
and bits.
problem. Yeah.
All right, let's go to topic number 5, which is, to me, honestly, of everything we've discussed, really the most interesting. For the first time in nearly 3 years in MMA, Francis Ngannou is back, ladies and gentlemen. He has returned. He'll be headlining a pay-per-view event from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, when he takes on PFL heavyweight champion Renan Ferreira. They're calling it Battle of the Giants. Brace for impact, BC. And as we mentioned, do we have the card? I don't know if I gave you the card as a...
Yeah, they have it.
No, we don't have it? We'll get to the lineal one in just a second. The card itself is good. Obviously, Chris Cyborg takes on Larissa Pacheco.
That's a great fight.
By the way,
man.
for me, maybe the best fight not the best fight all month, but one of the best non-title fights all month. Paul Hughes taking on AJ McKee. Fantastic. Johnny Eblen is back for a title fight against Fabian Edwards. Another fantastic contest.
That's a rematch, though.
It is a rematch. Still, it's Johnny Eblen's pretty good. It's worth seeing.
No, yeah, if that's the worst fight on your pay-per-view 4 card, that you're looking pretty good.
That's not my question nor my interest at this moment, BC. Here's the one that I want to ask you. It's open-ended, but I want you to think about this one. What is the biggest and perhaps the most important storyline headed into Saturday's contest? As I mentioned, the first fight for Ngannou in MMA in almost 3 years.
I think it all surrounds what does this version of Francis Ngannou look like in MMA, of course, with the layoff and the potential of whatever extreme damage he may have taken physically and or mentally from the Ngannou boxing loss. And then you mix that with the tragedy of losing his son, and does this suddenly spark a fire under him, or are we seeing a potential, wounded big name out there that can be taken down? But I like to apply this in terms of what I'm kind of watching the most here, Luke, is not necessarily who wins this, but what does Francis's performance do for PFL's fortunes moving forward when you frame it under the idea that they put so much into this year being their year. They were going to launch pay-per-view. They were going to have Jake Paul make his debut. Francis was going to fight regularly, all this stuff. And then they end up waiting 32 months for Francis. And all that time and the Joshua knockout has changed how we look at him. Like I said when this fight was signed, I think it improves how much I want to see this fight now because of those questions. But Luke, I want to see what does the potential performance success of this pay-per-view, both from an entertainment standpoint and from a commercial standpoint, which we don't assume will be great, even though it's a really damn good pay-per-view card. I want to see what this says about the gamble they took on bringing in Francis for all that money and that control, which I didn't damn them for it. Francis got the bag, all of that. But they couldn't have preferred that it went this way, Luke. And now what does Francis' potential performance say about where they're at as a company? I think, to me, that is tied into this, and that's as important a storyline to me as what exactly does Francis look like and who wins this fight.
I think those are relevant questions. To me, the biggest one is the one you asked, which is, what does Francis even look like?
Yeah.
You mentioned the death of his child, obviously the terrible knockout to Anthony Joshua, the inactivity, so to speak, in MMA. All of these, I think, are bigger questions. My question would be a little bit different, which is, what the fuck is the PFL doing? This card has been so poorly promoted, it's actually quite shocking. For example, I mean, there's any number of ways to tell this. I mentioned that they had the press conference in my hometown of Washington, D.C. with Renan Ferreira.
Let me guess, they didn't reach out to any of the local media.
Okay, how do you not do that? How do you go to town and you don't promote the card you have there the next day, nor the major, kind of like arguably I mean, arguably, BC, this is one of, if not the most important events in PFL history.
Yes.
Right? You've got your biggest star ever.
You can argue the most important.
You can absolutely argue it's the most important, and you're doing no real media outreach. They did no real media tour for it. Jake Paul didn't stump for it. Don Davis is talking to essentially financial news outlets that are utterly disconnected from the MMA fan base.
Well, they
did
do 2 big press conferences and had Jake host both, right? Or one of the 2.
Yeah, but that's not a media tour. They didn't do one-on-ones afterwards. They didn't do any local outreach. Like these are really poorly promoted. You go to like the PFL YouTube page. They have actually a cool thing that they did where they had Brett Okamoto out in Cameroon in the house that Francis Ngannou grew up in.
Yeah.
But no one's paid attention to it. It was out 2 days ago. As of this morning, it had like 16,000 views, and there's really no other promotional content. This is the point I'm trying to make, BC. It is arguably, or to your point, very likely the most important PFL event ever. And the UFC is on autopilot all the time, where everything is just off the factory assembly line. Nobody is trying to do buttoned up white glove treatment of any promotional content. This was the opportunity to do it, and they didn't even do it. I know like Francis did like a small little media tour last week, speaking to a couple of folks out there. I know he spoke to, I think, Mike Bond of MMA Junkie and like some other places.
Sure.
But not much. He didn't really do hardly any there. And it's like, dude, if you can't promote this card, you can't promote any card.
So is it because the idea is this is a Saudi paid for card, which is footing the bill, so there's no need to? Or is it just that they don't know what they're doing? Because we make the same speech a lot about what they're doing wrong and what we thought they were going to be doing, what they maybe should be doing. I mean, can we just send this message one more time? Drop the season and playoff format. Nobody cares.
I have 2 responses to that when they say it's Saudi.
Take the rosters, put them together like they're supposed to be with Bellator. I don't even care about whatever TV money they can make on this. Put your best foot forward all the time. You've got all these great fighters that no one even knows you have, like Patchy Mix, Usman Nurmagomedov, that you're wasting away in whatever's left of Bellator. Like, make you matter at what you do right, not the potential of, in this case, finally getting to see Francis and everybody's going to pop up again and look in. I really hope they come back next year with a bang. So can this pay-per-view card, if it's a success, and if it gets a result that sparks excitement, can this be the beginning of a big change, or is it too far gone, spent too much money, and nobody cares?
Okay, I know people don't believe me when I say this. There's nothing they can do to really change their fortunes. They will eventually go out of business because the industry is controlled by one dominant player. People just have
with the ESPN TV contract,
people have a hard time accepting the truth of the matter. Listen to me. I'm like Agent Smith. It is inevitable. Okay. However, this is the point when people bring up, it's a Saudi card, they don't need to promote it. All right. Show me which non-Saudi cards they've done a good job promoting. There's a through line on everything that they do, which is minimal to no promotion, no matter what. That Saudi might be footing the bill to me. Seems like if I can't tell the difference when they are and when they aren't, it seems like that's actually more part of the corporate culture.
Hey, we almost got Randy a few times. At least consider that, right?
And more to the point, here's the thing I want to put up. Put up the graphic. This came from Tim Wheaton, who covers kickboxing, but MMA as well. You can't read this, but they show the lineal title. The lineal title is, in boxing, as you well know, it's like, who is the real man? Like the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy, essentially, in MMA. There's places you can go. You can start Ken Shamrock first. They start it with Hoist Gracie. It goes from Hoist Gracie to Bas Rutten for a while. Then it goes to, and you could say Mark Coleman, depending on how you want to look at it. Then it goes to Big Nog. Then it goes to Fedor. Then it goes to Fabricio. Then Alistair. Then Cain Velasquez. Then back to Fabricio. Then Stipe. Then Cormier. Then Stipe again. And then Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is the inherited man who beat the man, and they've not told this story. It's like you legitimately have the guy, essentially, at heavyweight. And unless you're a hardcore, this information has not been presented to you. This is what I mean when I say, like, why didn't you promote this card? This is the card that gives you the best chance at promoting or giving you promotionally useful material. And they've done nothing. They've done nothing.
I'm puzzled by it because this card is very good. It got a lot that you need to see about this main event, what it looks like. But there is no buzz at the moment on it. How does this fight card produce that positive buzz? I know you say it can't. What is the best case scenario in your eyes for PFL in how this main event plays out, provided that the rest of the card, lived up to the expectations? It's a very good card on paper.
I think a good scenario for PFL is Francis winning,
Crushing knockout.
Crushing knockout. I mean, it could be competitive if they need it to be, but in the end, like, what highlight can they show? That's the one. And then secondly, what I would say is they need to sell over 100,000 pay-per-view buys, which I don't think is likely, but it could be. Because
are they getting ESPN Sports Center push on any of their stuff? I don't watch it, so I don't know. But
I mean, is Sports Center really pushing their stuff? I see ads. I do see that they've purchased a lot. I mean, this is what blows my mind about PFL. Like, they'll purchase ads for, like, the company CEO to have their tweet repopulated on your feed. They'll pay for influencers to, like, show up and give themselves, like, no rub whatsoever. And I guess they'll buy some, advertising along the way. But it seems like the stuff that they should be investing in, they don't seem to think is relevant. And it's like, if building a fan base is not important to a promotion, and it's quite clear to PFL it's not, then what are you? You are a financial asset. You are a
TV contract.
Yeah, you are just the sum of a TV content plan. You're not actually a real fight promotion in the end. That's the weird part about all of this.
Okay, but you think dominant Ngannou knockout after a competitive start is the best case scenario? So because then we're going to start to go, is it possible that John Jones could fight him or that Aspinall?
So here's the thing. The downside is if Francis goes out there and just thunderously KOs Ferreira, it boosts his stock to get another boxing fight, and PFL may not want that. But I do think it's better for them to have Francis as a rejuvenated MMA star than not. Because if Ferreira wins, people are like, oh, then you can say you're the guy that beat the guy. Number one, they're not even telling audiences that this is the guy, the inherited lineal champion. Two, who the fuck is Renan Ferreira going to fight? They'll have to do another rematch with Ngannou, which I guess you can get 2 out of that, which is better than nothing. But there's a bridge to nowhere there because they've not been able to effectively get anyone who's a ranked heavyweight from the UFC to go over to PFL, which if they don't do that, there's nothing to build off of. You can't go anywhere after that.
I'd rather them combine their roster, having knowledge at all times as a fan who are their champions, say to yourself, okay, I can't wait to see if that guy comes up in the rankings. Enough of the format, enough of all of that, the season and the playoffs. Give us run it like a pro wrestling promotion where you're building the storyline. So we always know, okay, this fight is probably going to lead to this and this. I'd like to see some of that old school storytelling in their promotional ability. Let's see where this card takes them, Luke. But yeah, I want to see where Francis is at. I mean, there are a lot of people that think he's vulnerable out there, that this could be a big time Fajeda moment. You will get 2 fights out of that. I wonder if maybe you can argue that it's just as good if this is a Hendo versus Fedor type of fight and Fajeda wins it and then we get that rematch and we see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that, but 3 losses in a row for Francis, and that's your biggest star. Is that what's good for you? I mean, again, because he has options, the answer might be. But the problem that they ultimately are up against, and this is what I keep trying to explain to people, unless there is a world where the PFL roster can cross-pollinate with the UFC roster, it is over. It is over. And I know folks have a real hard time accepting that because it seems so dramatic. Mark my fucking words. Unless you can do that, it is hopeless.
What should we be thinking about storylines quickly on Cyborg Pacheco? That it could be a potential passing of the guard for
that one. Seems. I mean, again, I want to be clear. Renan Ferreira winning on Saturday, if he does, should not be a surprise to anybody because he is dangerous no matter what. Plus, tons of questions about Francis. This is a great fight. It's that more so.
Yes.
For the co-main. For the co-main, Pacheco looks like she's the real deal at this weight class. Cyborg, obviously, her record speaks for itself, but she is long in the tooth. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. Also, Paul Hughes, one of the best prospects in MMA, taking on AJ McKee. That is cannot miss material. That is going to be a fucking awesome fight. It's a great card. It's a great card. It's a legitimately great card that has, I cannot believe how poorly it's been promoted.
When you did the great card bit right there, you almost AJ Buffundo yourself, and I thought it was going to be, it's a double chunk chocolate cookie. Like you were on that road. You were on that vibe,
guys.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, we're into pornography.
All right.
We're Costco guys.
Yeah.
We don't wear condoms.
So Saturday night is this Francis card?
Yeah, I think the main card's at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Are you going to pay for the pay-per-view? How much is that pay-per-view? I think it's like $49.95, something like that. Let me pull it up here.
I'm going to watch that pay-per-view.
Okay.
I'm going to not so pay-per-view. All right, according to it, let's see, browse plans. What does it ask me to do?
Browsers? I don't think you should be on that.
Hey, could you believe it? ESPN Plus is fucking up and it doesn't work right. When has that ever happened? Huh? All right.
Your biggest enemies in life are ESPN Plus and commenters on social media.
Less so in the commenters. I don't get nearly as engaged as I once did. Believe me,
You once stayed up at night thinking about
Well, I just was like heavy on the block button. Now
Punch
I'm like
clowns.
now I'm just like whatever. I don't get to
Clown
it.
Punch 69. What's that generic name you always use? Clown Fart.
Clownpenis.fart.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the great website.
BC, that's our top 5. I don't know if we have a read or not. I don't have one in front of me.
Luke, and I wanted to tell you that, like among friends when you discover a new bin show or a song that you want to bump on your stereo and you're like, man, I need LT to be involved in this. I've got something too that's awesome that I want you guys to experience as Morning Kombat listeners. And that's kind of what it feels like when you discover Mint Mobile offering premium wireless plans for $15 a month, folks, when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal that there's no way I can keep it to myself any longer. Luke, just like the things we exchanged in college, I've got to spread this around, okay? Because friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say bye-bye to those overpriced wireless plans and switch to Mint Mobile today. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium plans that are only $15 a month. Get that 3-month plan. All the plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk, and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your phone number along. All your existing contacts. It's that freaking easy. Ditch the overpriced wireless, Luke. Get the 3 months of premium service for $15 a month. Tell them about it, please.
I don't have this ad.
All right. Well, here's what you want to do. If you're a new customer here, it's your time. Here's your offer. 3-month premium wireless plan for $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/combat with a K. Mintmobile.com/combat with a K. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. Mintmobile.com/wireless with a K, /combat with a K. Get it right. Get it right. And also, by the way, $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than above 40 GB or on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for more details.
Sorry about that. I don't have the ad. I can't read it.
Yeah.
All right, with that in mind, it's time for when the donks get to ask us questions. It's time for DMs from the Diggity Donk. That last just sounds like a fat guy getting off of his wife,
It's gross. It's
All right,
really gross.
let's go first one up here. I'm not even going to read them. It's Not Cage Fighting says, is this the golden age of the UFC flyweight division?
That's a great
Golden
question.
age seems like a little strong. I mean, golden age is like when you have like the very best guy, which would be Demetrius.
Okay, but no, I disagree. Golden age to me is when you have multiple guys at the top. Preferably, you'd want them to be big stars. What's a golden age of heavyweight boxing? The 1970s with all those big stars. No disrespect to DJ, but he dominated his era. Henry Cejudo had a short run on top
tough fights
to keep the division alive. But I consider this era to be the 4 fights between Figueiredo and Moreno, leading into Pantoja's dramatic, emotional takeover of the division. And what are we getting in every sort of like title fight or number 1 contender fight? We're getting badass fights like we saw with Royval Taira. So I think 100% this is the golden age of great flyweight fights between hungry, crazy, wild competitors, and anybody can beat anybody anytime. I'll take that as my favorite era in the era I want to live in. And that's not a disrespect to Mighty Mouse, who is one of the greatest of all time and gets one of those 5 chairs up in the ceiling there.
I'm not saying that like
in the upper room.
I'm not saying the golden era is the DJ era. I have to think about it a little bit more, but I would say if you're getting title shots based off of like minimal wins, it's very hard for me to accept that this is the golden era.
The proof is in the pudding, though, as Floyd would say. Aren't these fights just awesome every time out almost?
When were they bad?
When they almost shut down the division.
when they were
They
bad
weren't bad. That's not true. That's a
Okay,
total.
but
They
That's
were
a,
rough. No one liked watching flyweight
Yeah,
fights.
they
a
weren't.
few
They
years
weren't
ago.
great.
hardcores back then were all jacking off about how great flyweight fights were.
The first year of it, yeah, but then people got bored of DJ's dominance. Not his fault that they got bored.
That's different than saying the division was bad.
No, the division's more exciting now compared to then.
I think there's more parity, and so you think it's
Right,
more exciting.
but it
I don't know if
helps
it's
when
actually more
everyone
exciting.
in the parody bubble are all action fighters and they're bringing it. So yeah, I would say. I think you missed this golden era. I think
don't
you
think
missed
this
the Golden
crop-
Hour
I-
podcast.
I don't think this crop of flyweights is like remarkably better than the Joe B versus DJ era, where John Dodson was like John Dodson versus DJ1 is Did you see John Dotson versus DJ1?
Yes.
Okay. He gets dropped in that fight.
I'm just saying, no
That's
one,
a fucking
Joe
awesome
B versus
fight.
Cejudo
no one
is
cared when
fantastic,
John
too.
Dotson left the UFC. I'm just saying that much. He kind of resurged his career.
And people are going to care when Kai Asakura leaves, or people are going to care when Matt
Luke, why
Schnell
can't
retires.
you just be happy and enjoy what we have right now?
I do. I think the flyweight has. Here's what I would say about flyweight. It has resurged back to a very healthy, interesting level. Golden age? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm less convinced by that. All right, let's go.
They're golden
I
gods.
see your skits and bits, fuckface. All
I
right.
didn't skid anything.
From Bodie Bolger, Grant Dawson is now 10-1 in the UFC with 1 no contest. What do you think his ceiling in this division is? Yeah, but he just got knocked out before Saturday.
3 fights ago by Bobby Green.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, that's his
Jesus.
second straight win.
Okay, but that was a bad loss.
It was.
The problem was that was supposed to be his step-up moment.
That was his
and he got
moment to
flattened.
become a true contender. And
So
be
listen, I actually really like watching Grant Dawson fight. I think he's very good. Him and Pat Sabatini, I think he had the same problem. He finally stepped up and then got wrecked as well. So I'm going to say this. On paper, I think very highly of what Grant Dawson has been able to do. But when it's gut check time, he's got to really, really answer that. And that's been something that's kind of held him back.
So what's his ceiling? Do you think he gets to the title shot level? I think he falls short. I think he's a tough contender.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Without making dramatic improvements, I'm not sure about
Okay.
that. But he's good. The guy can fight.
Great soundbite on Saturday. Wish I could play it.
Would you ever mention that about your wife on national TV? Dropping a quarter?
No, that's inappropriate.
I don't know if I would make it home.
Keep the marriage bread pure.
I think my wife might ISIS my head. And
Yeah,
just take
yeah.
that
What,
thing,
what
put it on
are
a
we
pike.
doing here, please, Grant?
Okay, from Real Kempy. How many pay-per-views does Conor's BKFC debut do? Well, two
him
things.
fighting, they're saying.
Yeah. So two things I would say. Depends on the price point. And it depends how washed he is by the time he gets there.
Okay, let's say he is competitive in 2 UFC fights over the next year, but he commits to not re-signing with them, but he loses both fights. So that's a certain amount of losses in a stretch, but he's still Conor McGregor. And then it's like, he's coming home, guys, him against Mike Perry or whoever is the most Mike Perry of Mike Perry at that time.
Yeah.
That would be the most kind of viral, all action.
I'll say this. It would never happen, but let me just posit this. Hear me out. Exact scenario you're talking about. He does the 2, looks competitive but loses, but whatever, and then goes right into it. And let's say he promotes the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor versus Jake Paul bare knuckle. That easily clears $1 million.
Oh,
that easily clears $1
That's
million.
more than that, I think.
Okay, yeah, I'm saying easily. Listen to the words I'm
I
saying.
thought you were going to go him, Nate.
So him versus Nate, I think also clears $1 million. The person asked $2 million. I think you have to get to Jake Paul to get to $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you could do it. And if your pay-per-view is like $50 versus like 80 or 90.
You don't think they'll do something weird like Conor versus 60-year-old Mike Tyson in a bare knuckles circle? I hope we don't get to that point, please.
Golly, dude. Also,
What do you think about people that say that TKO is eventually going to buy BKFC because Conor is elevating the brand so much now in his role?
it seems possible. They want their hand in boxing, obviously, as we know now. I don't know.
Couldn't TKO in theory take whatever, like, big name boxers and MMA guys that'll be in wrestlers that'll be under their TKO silo and then move them around and go, okay, who wants power?
I think they would. They've already put Paige Van Zandt, who was out and then is back in, but like they put her in Power Slap, which is
she's going to do another one for them,
which is not great. But what I was going to say was, dude, who is one guy? This is one of the most slept on BKFC storylines. He's a champion now. Who is doing really well in BKFC? Austin Trout.
Yeah, he had a win again.
Austin Trout, a very legitimate boxer.
Yes.
And he's kicking ass over there. No one's really paying attention to it, but it's like a big thing. So like, I could absolutely foresee a situation where if that was ever in their interest, they could move people around for sure. All right, what do we got next? Elvis has a racial slur next to his name.
That could just be his last name.
No, it's a racial slur. Who should @Oscar Willis fight next?
Some people want
He's
a
been fighting
rematch
the Sun. Fucking A.
with the Bane in an MMA cage.
I'm going to say he needs to beat his battle with sobriety first. You know what I'm saying?
How dare you? That is okay. What about the Schmo? The Schmo? Do you think the Schmo would do MMA? Because
I don't think he's going to do bare knuckle, dude. You got to be real fucking.
You got to be real wild. Oh, is there somebody we're not thinking of that could be competitive with that?
Casey Layden.
Oh yes, sorry.
But they're too different in weight.
I will tell you this. I was on the BTL on MMA fighting with Mike Heck. and it was leading into the Oscar fight. And Casey said, I said, Casey, would you want to fight the winner? Because Casey also had an amateur MMA fight around the time of Oscar. And he said 100%.
Really?
He wants the winner, and he's willing to do bare knuckle.
Really?
How would you like Casey's chances in there against Oscar?
He's way too big. I think he hurts Oscar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oscar had a great win. He had a great game plan, but Casey is much bigger than him.
Don't you imagine Oscar like fighting like a Nelk boy? Like Steve will do it, or one of those. I don't know. I
But
can't
those
tell
guys
those
really
apart.
do a fucking bare knuckle.
I don't
fight?
know. Those guys do crazy stuff. Look at Jake Paul. He's fighting Mike Tyson. I mean, those guys do crazy stuff for clicks, right?
Yeah, but like fighting Mike Tyson on 8 2-minute rounds for $1 gazillion is real different than fighting Oscar Willis for like a stick of gum and a paper clip in your pocket. You know what I mean? Like it's a very different proposition. All right, next. From Bryce Wachner. Who out of Umar, Topuria, and Shavkat loses their O first? What a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Probably Topuria against Max, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, his fight is, well, hold on. His fight is the most recent. Like, or it is the closest one to us now.
Yes.
It's not like they all fight on the same day.
People do want to know when, in regards to the size of your bulge, whether it points more true north for Shavkat or Ilya. I already know the answer because I'm around you a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Ilya.
So what do you do with the toys that
I like
you're
how
done with?
everyone else
No,
gets
hold
to
on,
fit.
I like
everyone-
how I was talking. What do you do with those two toys, Max and Izzy, that you're no longer done with? You like in that
How am
Toy
I
Story
done with?
meme?
How am I done with either of them?
You don't have the inner just passion for them like you.
This is
used
very,
to.
very simple. Other people get to like fighters, and it's no thing. If I like a fighter, all of a sudden it's weird. I don't quite understand the difference.
Long on look. Does he like them or does he love them?
He's got an affinity for Ilya.
What about you two fanboying out for various losers?
For straw weights,
I like
okay,
Robert
it's
Whittaker
justified.
and Volk. I mean, you know,
He likes Australian.
they're solid
men.
guys.
First of all, you'd blow both of them. Let's just be honest
all
about
All right,
that.
that's the end of the show.
So,
here.
hold on.
This
and
is-
then secondly, what I want to say is, I don't even like bring up or even deny like all the bad parts about them.
yes.
I know this is a weird concept. Hear me out.
Jeez, I'm
Hear me
hearing
out.
you.
I like fighters who are. Hear me out now. Ready for this?
Who, like where Abercrombie and Fitch?
No.
All right.
Good at fighting. So a lot of people like fighters and then like everything about them. What they wear, what they say, how they show up, their social media stuff. I don't care about any of that. I care about good fighters in good fights doing awesome
So
things.
you're saying the Madrid fandom for Ilya is coincidental?
Well, he's Spanish. I mean, Georgian, but Spanish. I don't understand the question.
You said I like fighters because they're good at fighting.
Yes.
Some people think you're cosplaying through Ilya's success because that's the man you want to be. Living in Spain, loving BBLs,
well,
kicking ass, nice tats.
I mean, I don't ever think of it that way, but his life doesn't suck. I'll put it
so
that way.
when you say I only like fighters that are good at fighting, no one believes you because they know.
Yeah, but I liked Topuria before Madrid ever got on board. And I didn't even know they ever would. I didn't even know that. I mean, he blew up a little bit faster than I thought he would actually. So that was a bonus for a guy like me.
boner. More like
Is that it? Do we have any more? That's it? All right. It's time for BC's Feces.
Yeah, so
Let's see
here's
it.
what I did yesterday. I scoured the globe for the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and lows, the in-between, and combat sports and beyond. Unfortunately, Luke, crowd surfer boner clip is no longer a working link, so that got dropped. But here's the best-ish I can find. It's Have You Seen This Shit? Luke, what a weekend for Conor McGregor. And not his promoter debut, but considering this was BKFC's first card with their new deal in DAZN, and it was in a bullfighting ring in Spain, it felt like this was Conor coming to the forefront and taking his job full force. It started when he was at this media event to promote this BKFC fight and the opportunity to shit on your boy Ilya. He couldn't pass it up.
So I won 2 big bets betting on Spanish athletes. So there you go. Let's go Spain. I would say I would bet on Ilya Topuria, but he is not Spanish. He is Georgian. Let's be real. I am as Spanish, if not more Spanish, than Ilya Topuria, who is a Georgian man undercover. He is operating undercover. So we support the real Spanish athletes.
That racist, Luke, I don't know, but is Ilya
Definitely not racist,
Topuria?
but definitely stupid. For sure that.
Okay, I thought that was pretty
Who
funny.
do the Spanish seem to think is more Spanish? Him or
Did that
Topuria?
upset you?
No, you guys pointing out social media riffraff as like some. Did you, for example, did you include the dunk he had on Belal in your shit here?
No, I didn't.
Right. So this is what I mean. You
You think this is one-sided?
Do I think that? It is visibly so.
Okay.
You do this on purpose to like tilt
So
me.
I need to play more of Turia's
You act
hits
like
to
you like tilting me is like above what you would ever do.
Well, it's my full-time focus.
I would never.
It's really
do
the
it.
full-time focus of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, yeah.
So no, it means guilty as charged.
Well, how do you think? Because you are very respectful of your own transition to Spanish, and you don't. You sometimes talk down your ability to speak Spanish.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Let's hear what Conor is when he took to the mic at this BKFC show. Oh, here is first a montage of him acting unhinged at the weigh-ins.
He's
Luke.
just having a good time.
This was awesome. Come on, this was very awesome.
He's having a good time.
Okay, this was great.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. And then we go to the actual show. Here is Conor speaking Spanish, addressing the crowd.
Hola, damas y caballeros. Hola, fanáticos de las peleas. Hola, España.
This is the XFL.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, live from beautiful Marbella, Spain, and only on DAZN. What you are about to witness tonight, ladies and gentlemen, will be like nothing you have ever seen before.
Hey, could his collar be bigger?
So there are a lot of people saying, rightfully so, he's really good at that.
Yeah, he is good at that.
Seriously.
Yeah, he is good at that.
You don't think UFC is scared by that at all? I don't think they are. They're
scared. They're not even in the bare knuckle business.
But he's good at that. I want to see more of him like this.
I actually do feel like promotionally he will have a lot of success. Yes.
Well, he did.
His Spanish, by the way, is terrible.
He did jump Dave Feldman on this post-fight excitement call out here. Let's listen to this.
We're gonna do a bonus for this fight. We're gonna do a bonus, Conor.
No. Listen, what we're gonna do for these two gentlemen, as well as a bonus, is double the purse. They're getting double paid. That's it, great. Well done, gentlemen. You're getting double paid and bonuses. Thank you.
Yeah, I love every time he does stuff like that. Like when he's like, "Mike Perry, you're fired," and Feldman's like,
"Is he not the guy who gets hammered at the party and then close talks everybody?"
Yes, he is. He also has that vibe of like the rich boss's son who can call the shots, but no one like trusts him.
I could smell the beer on his breath from here.
There was a video which we don't have of him and the schmo dancing in the bull ring afterwards.
I did see that, yeah.
But here's the post-fight party, which Conor starts getting up on Britton Hart, the BKFC champion,
pulls her by
right
the
there.
hair, no less.
And then D. Devlin's like, nah. Not in Mutombo's house.
Shouts to Dikembe.
And he's just like, nah, honey, I was just yanking on the chain there. There you go. I really respected D for standing her ground there.
All right. I'm glad.
All right. Do you not want to talk about their relations?
I cannot tell you how little I find the private lives of fighters interesting.
Not even Bivol's estranged wife?
She's a firecracker, is she not?
Speaking of Oscar Willis, he obviously also had a huge weekend. Here is Conor hyping up Oscar at the weigh-in.
So talk me through Ben Davis, one of the presenters at Misfits, is fighting. Talk to me about that fight with the Mac line against Oscar Willis.
Oscar Willis is a fucking Oscar Willis has balls like a Bengali tiger. Fucking big juicy balls as Oscar Willis at the Mac Life got. And he's fighting Ben Davis for a fucking plate to Ben. He's outsized. And Oscar, he's in home territory, so he's up against it. But Oscar's coming for the goal, baby. Let's go, Oscar Willis at the Mac.
Once again, if the cops come, we can just hide under Conor's collar.
Luke, despite the fact that Oscar Willis had a huge win, I do want you to rate that tat. Here's him posing with his coach Dan Hooker. He added the Muhammad Ali tat on his midriff there. What'd you think?
Is there any way to zoom in?
I don't think so.
It looks pretty bad.
Oh, come on. He's got the Union Jack flag above his right pec. I don't know what he has above his left pec. Maybe like some song lyric. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It all looks pretty bad.
All right, there you go. Well, here's footage of his performance. 4 knockdowns in round 1 against Ben the Bane Davis. He rushed him from the start, and it was that straight right, which just couldn't miss.
Yeah, he goes over the top, then underneath. And again, he had the right idea, dude. Once, look, he keeps a hand on there and just doesn't stop firing.
He ate big shots, too.
He did have some big shots there. I mean, Ben was trying. Look at Ben. He's throwing. It's just not having much of an effect.
he was like a cyborg the way he walked through him, right?
Yeah, look at this.
So do you think the Hooker and or McGregor coaching like really helped?
I definitely think they would do that. Like coming out there and storming a guy, I'm telling you, if you're making a pro debut or you're an amateur fighter, they all look this way. Like that is the best game plan. Get out there and overwhelm your opponent, and they crumble every single time.
If this continues to be a thing, I mean, it's almost like the Jake Paul thing. It's almost like the crossover boxing bubble. But if not just Oscar, but crazy enough MMA journalists, maybe some of them are craving more crossover attention and opportunities. If promoters would entertain more BS circus stunts like this, this level, I can get into it.
I'll just say this. The fighters are becoming the media, and the media are becoming the fighters.
That's a great point.
It's a crazy time.
Oh, my God. And then, of course, post-fight drinks for these two on the floor there in the Marbella.
Shouts to both of those guys. We know them both. We like them both. We kill them both on the show, but they're both great. And when I see them, I enjoy hanging out with them.
Huevos, too, both guys.
For sure. Absolutely. No question.
Teofimo Lopez Jr., who, by the way, is trying to
Although I will say this. Everyone's like, yo, they got big balls. And everyone's like, you got to respect everyone that gets into the cage. And I'm like, if these two bozos can get it, how special is it really? Can we be honest about that?
Have you seen the tattoos on most BKFC fighters? Do I really have to respect everybody that gets in there?
Yeah, I don't think I do.
Teofimo was at a boxing event in San Antonio. Luke, he's suing Top Rank, claiming that there's a loophole in his contract.
He's also done.
That he should be a free agent. Here is what the ladies thought of him. What does that say in Spanish?
Que en vida con las tías. No sé la palabra en vida, but tías is the aunts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Tias are all over Teo. Tias for Teo. There you go, right there. Well done. Let's go to Beterbiev Bivol time from Saudi. We all remember Bivol's estranged wife, Ekaterina, a.k.a. Katie. Luke, we saw the tweets leading up to it. Here is her commenting on the weigh-in Instagram post where she claims, my children and I are for Arthur, meaning Artur Beterbiev.
Okay. By the way, everyone misspelling his name.
Oh, author? Remember when Berlanga was like author?
Berlanga. By the way, how is Edgar Berlanga the most annoying person on social media?
We'll get to that. If you don't know the story, Bivol and his wife are divorced. She's claiming that he's not paying child support.
No, say it what it is. She claims he's a deadbeat dad.
And she claims that he beat her. She posts pictures. She put pictures of him crushing her phone. I don't know, something like that. She did how's this for the most spiteful moment? Hell hath no fury like Katie Bivol. Did a live stream in which she openly cheered for Beterbiev the whole time. And here's the finish, Luke.
Блядь, честно? Так тебе и надо, дебил. Артур, да! Потому что карма настигла Бивола. Иди к своей мормале. Вот мое истинное лицо. Мы идем в ресторан на ваш счет.
Мой проиграл.
Блядь, ты нас кинул. Вот, блин, карма, херова. О, Багдасарян. Боже, Господи, спасибо. Артур, я тебя поздравляю.
Damn, bro.
Damn, dude.
You want to talk about preying on someone's downfall? Jesus.
She's getting her comeuppance here. And she says
he is getting his comeuppance.
No, she feels like she's getting
That's not what comeuppance means.
And enjoying. Oh, you're right. He'll have to get his. Well, she basically said the fight will be in court, so that's where she.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Where he may get his. But I don't know who's right or who's wrong, obviously. But that is a wild side.
I will tell you, her reactions look very real. Like they don't look very manufactured at all. She looked quite thrilled.
Wow. Did you see Ben Whitaker on the undercard there on the DAZN pay-per-view undercard, which they originally said was free, and then they did a switcheroo and charged for it?
Not a great look.
Here's him going over the ropes. This looks like Bo versus Elijah Tillery Part 1. Whitaker would claim he was injured in a fight in which he wasn't looking great, and then they called it, they went to the cards, it was a technical draw.
Bro, he was getting beat up a little bit. He was getting beat up in this fight. He was a minus like 2,000 favorite.
So that was a wild show. And then we'll go to the co-feature. Fabio Wardley and Frazier Clark fought to a draw earlier this year in a great heavyweight all-action fight, yet it was Wardley on the left against a much more skilled amateur background in Clark, but he brought the woodshed out here, Luke. These two rights, it looked like he broke his face, too.
He dented the side of his head because he broke essentially where the jaw connects to the skull.
Yeah, you're shaking my microphone.
Oh, sorry, bro.
Yeah. Is that your knee or your genitals?
Both.
All right. Well, Luke, Usyk Fury 2 is coming up in December. That's the next big one to look out for. And Usyk had a message on social media for his good friend, Greedy Belly.
Hey, my friend Greedy Belly. Continue training. I'm rest, brother. I know. You hard work. It's good. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Greedy Belly. You my friend. You are my friend.
That's what you say to someone in prison before you have your way with them. You are my friend.
Do you notice that in public, like Fury goes up and hugs him and acts like they're boys now?
Yeah.
It's
I think there's a little bit of camaraderie that's brewing between them.
I think it's one-sided. I think it's Fury. I think Usyk's still looking at this as competition. You know?
Yeah, but still, I think Usyk thinks he's secretly funny.
Does it get you fired up when you see these Fury interviews of late where he says, like, I'm going for the knockout?
Yes, I do. I outboxing him, I don't know how good that's going to go.
Yeah.
Try and just physically put it on him.
Luke, when you walked through the turnstile and graduated high school and threw your cap, if I would have said, what are your plans next, what would you say?
College.
All right, let's see what
Corps.
this kid has to say.
You just graduated high school. What are you planning on doing next?
Shit, going home and jacking off. That's what I'm gonna do.
That's me every day after MK, though. I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
somebody had to say it. Luke, no one ever talks about how dangerous the game Jenga can be. Oh, wow. You seen that shit? That guy has. Good Lord. All right. Let's go to this game show for kids. It should be wholesome, right?
Spalding, look at the monitor and give the full name of this person. Adolf Hitler. That's actor Jason Statham. Television as well.
Oh, wow.
Dude, how did he catch a stray like that?
That's a big time stray right there. Okay, let's keep the fun going here.
Kids will tell the
Such a good time with you. Hey, look, I'm just going to go to the bathroom, and then we'll keep it going.
Oh, fun. Wow, we're almost the same size.
Bro, the Crying Game was a 90s classic. I mean, I'm
Okay.
not saying I'm trying to watch it again, but...
Same size there, Luke. Hey, Black Friday's coming up, your favorite holiday. Let's get a recap of what can
Right.
happen.
Look at the spirit. Look at this Christmas spirit, bro.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Listen, and someone chucked the fucking... look at that. Look at that Christmas spirit. Jack Frost nipping at your toes or whatever the fuck the line is.
Luke,
Nose.
the Dodgers sung the Mets last night 9-0 in game 1 of the NLCS.
Our producer Matt is very upset about this.
But these zesty Dodgers have been known this postseason for doing stuff like this. Tip on tip. Your thoughts?
You know what I got to say? I think this is my new favorite team. I don't even like the Dodgers, but the fact that they're insanely homoerotic.
Yeah, that's what they do.
It's the Craig Jones of baseball, is
That's
it not?
true. Would you say gender reveals are among your favorite things ever?
Everyone who does a gender reveal deserves to die in a house
They
fire.
call this the most over-the-top gender reveal in history. The most spectacular. Oh. So she wins a pink Jeep, Luke. And she's having a girl.
Where's a drive-by shooter when you need one?
Oh, boy. Let's go to, like, Colombian gender reveals.
Why are they Colombian?
They could be, right?
Why? Because they're Hispanic?
I mean, they could be Colombians. They look like very nice people, right? Oh, they're having a girl, Luke. Get on to paint the Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, one more time. Where's a drive-by shooter when you need one?
We haven't had a good road rage incident in a while. Let's go down under here to Australia.
Don't let him see ya. Don't let him see ya. We don't need to put up this shit. I live here.
Yeah, you can tell these are Aussie rednecks. Half of them have no shoes.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a knife? Oh, I got a knife.
Dude, I feel like Aussie white trash is different.
I think I had Nocita's take on that. He is the offspring of that.
Hey, Nocita, when you recorded this video, where were you?
Okay, watch the truck here.
Is Bubbles gonna fucking...
Bro, look.
Look at this, going to steal the truck.
Oh, shit.
Oh, she's gonna steal the car. Fuck.
Oh! Just some good old boys. Never meaning no harm.
And it gets messy from there. Long Island Luke, can you defend your people, please?
Why did you record that?
I just thought it looked entertaining, and I knew it would go viral.
Let me ask you something. Like, dude, it feels like Aussie white trash. I don't know how to explain it, man. It's as close to Florida as you can get, but yet far away from Florida, right?
I'm telling Jack Della, he said that.
I do feel like Aussie white trash is white trash. Like, that's what everyone
like straight up swamp trash.
Like that's where it originated from.
Look, you ever have that friend you can't invite over because he breaks things?
You mean Brian Campbell? Oh, you fucking moron.
Those fish are done, Luke. They are done. But that's not our drunk of the week. This is our drunk of the week.
Oh, he's about to go head first into that bitch. See ya, ho.
Boy.
Yeah.
Yep, wasted indeed. We have to skip the crowd surfing boner that came out.
Why?
Because the video didn't work anymore. I couldn't find the replay.
The
of
North
it.
Korean
It's so
censors?
great. They're just passing this guy along at this, like,
He's got a big old heart on.
just got a Conor McGregor at the Floyd weigh-ins. 2 more for you here. Let's check out this lady in the bathroom.
Okay. I mean, send her to the fucking hell. What, bitch? Go. Get the fuck out of my life, you absolutely disgusting.
Look, it's cake. It's just cake.
Disturbing
okay?
is what it is. Fucking gross.
And you always say there's BC, there's not enough elder abuse. So we
where the
close
fuck is it?
with our elder abuse clip of the week.
This is a bad idea.
Holy shit, Hicks. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Oh.
Oh, yes.
Yo!
Take that, Granny. Wow.
What a twist.
What a twist. What a twist, right? Woo!
Dude, that one got me good. I was like, is this the punchline? And then she got fucking ran over.
That's the shit of the week. I hope you saw it.
Holy
There it
shit
is.
balls.
Woo.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, big week here, Luke. We're going to be back on Friday.
Yes, Friday, 11 a.m.
In which we are going to have our picks for the PFL Supercard for we got some boxing this weekend, of which I'm calling Saturday night Orlando Amazon Prime.
Hey.
Okay? When Tim Tszyu
takes on
challenges Bakram Muratzaliev for the IBF junior middleweight title in a triple header. Brian Custer, myself, Keith One-Time Thurman, Jordan Plant, on the call. This is
over under the number of times Keith Thurman refers to himself as Keith Thurman
as
on the
one
air.
time, hopefully the whole night. That's what I hope. I hope he brings the flute out and starts playing.
So this is not pay-per-view. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can just get
Prime
it for
Video.
free.
Check it out Saturday night. It'll be a great time.
And where is this fight?
This is at the Caribe Royale in Orlando.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
That's what we got for
Is
you.
it a
You
decent
can check
paycheck?
out- It is a decent paycheck. Yeah, I'm back.
TV
I'm
gigs.
back in business.
TV
all right?
gigs. That's where
I'm
the money
coming
is.
for you. Okay, I'm coming for this life. Okay, I'm coming.
Well, okay, Schwarzenegger, calm down over there.
Okay.
Let's remind everyone, like and subscribe the whole 9 yards. There you go. You can buy our merch, morningkombat.store, live 10, take 10% off if you're so inclined.
Yeah, take it off.
Brian Campbell Experience on YouTube, just Luke Thomas on YouTube on this side. And what else am I forgetting? Friday, live 11 a.m. We'll get you ready for a PFL.
Yeah, I think that's really about it. That's all. That's all we planned for. All right, 2 hours and 6 minutes of the best show.
Long Island Luke, plug your Degenerate podcast.
Everyone tune in. I'll have a new breakdown out tomorrow. Main card minute.
We have a fight night card this Saturday. Michel Pineda versus who?
Fluffy Hernandez.
Fluffy Hernandez.
It's a good one.
But we got a worse fight night main event coming up. Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates.
Prachesh, I think is how they say it, but I don't know actually. So there you go.
What does your quality control feel about that as a main event?
If that was on the card of like a regular fight card, I'd be okay with it. But as a headlining fight, it's suboptimal. But like I do like Prachesh.
Yeah, he is coming on.
He's awesome.
Coming on.
He's
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's it. That's BC.
That's it.
I'm LT. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you on Friday at live at 11 a.m. in the East. Until next time, may all your gains be loyal.